Hello, and welcome to S-Link FM versus Shin Megami Tensei Cathedral of Shadows podcast. Baby! Featuring your main character, Levito, Chansu Up, fan favorite, Armada-chan, and Inorigo Sensei. Did you see the step? Is genius! New contender appears, Rasen. Can you believe it? Oh, no. Also guest Katsu. Wow, his smile is MegaTen on cue. Get ready for next episode.
Welcome to the Velvet Room. S-Link FM.
Hello and welcome to the 21st episode of S-Link FM and
the 13th episode of the Cathedral of Shadows, the greatest podcast ever made about a niche Japanese RPG series.
I think we'll have to contest that, sir. You stepping on you're in Persona country.
Let's do this right now in the middle of the bar.
All right,
right now.
If you're not recognizing these voices, we have two special guests with us today, or maybe we're their guests. Who knows?
But time paradox.
Anyways, I am your host Levito. With me today is Armada.
Hey, what's up, guys?
There and Arnorigo.
Show you right.
Show puns. And today we have two guests, Rasen.
Hi, I'm Rasen.
And Katsu.
What's good with you know?
And Katsu and Rasen, who are you folks?
Well, we run a glorious podcast about Shin Megami Tensei, which, as you said in a few episodes ago, it is a pachinko machine podcast. We talk about these very special branded pachinko machines. No, we're about the mother series of Persona. As some of you may know, Persona is actually a spin-off. So we talk more about the franchise as a whole and stuff. So yeah.
So we talk about the franchise, what's happening within the fan base, etc., and so forth.
Yeah.
So Pachinko's machines have a very diverse lexicon.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely.
Yeah,
there's a lot of fandom wars.
Anyways, so before we get started, I figure we should go over the little bit of news there is. So, what news is there on the arena front?
So, if you guys have been keeping track with Persona 4, the Ultimax Ultra Suplex Hold, Sho Minazuki, not the one without the Persona, the one with the Persona, is going to be made available to play in arcades December 19th. His Persona is Tsukiyomi, and funny thing about Tsukiyomi is that in history, he is considered to be the son of Izanagi, so there's a little nudge, wink, wink from Atlus. Sho might actually be Narukami's son from the future.
Oh my god. Bit of a Marty McFly situation here.
Yes.
The real question is, who is the OTP then?
It's probably Narukami and Labris, since Sho has a plume of dusk inside of him.
I was going to say Narukami and Labris simply because they have the same colored hair. Do they?
Ooh.
No, wait. Sho has red hair.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, but don't Narukami and Labris both have silver hair?
Yeah.
Yeah,
pretty much. This is more like, it's more silverish, yeah.
Poor Yosuke, he just got NTR'd.
Yeah, Arena is only further cemented in canon. Fanboys cry.
So sad.
So sad.
A few days ago, there was a magazine interview talking about what's going to happen in the story and like why Adachi is in the story. For those of you who haven't been keeping track with Arena news, Adachi from Persona 4 has been confirmed to be in the game. We got to look at his sprite, and his sprite looks unfinished, unpolished. It looks kind of disgusting. But
just like the character.
He is confirmed to have nothing to do with Sho, so he's not in cahoots with him. He's not a villain this time around. He's just rather neutral. He's trying to get everyone to stop fighting.
Oh well, that makes sense, right? Isn't he supposed to be locked up?
I guess.
Huh? What's going on?
Yeah, he's supposed to be locked up. So
my beautiful continuity. No.
The next spin-off
And
game is going to be an action game where you play Adachi breaking out of prison.
yeah.
Oh lordy.
In Narukami's arcade mode, he runs into Adachi and he asks if Adachi is a fake or not, and Adachi's just like, "No, I'm the real thing. I have business up top of this tower. See you later." And then
I
that's
think
it.
we have a new HBO miniseries on our hands. That's
Yes.
Adachi.
You guys know the mission in Metal Gear Solid 3 where you're playing as Snake and you have to break out of that prison? They should
Yes.
Atlus should just take that mission, right? And then mod the game so they put Adachi's head on Snake's body. Because clearly for the fan base already likes to do this with Photoshops. Just
Yes.
just do a Tumblr search of Persona and you'll see what I'm talking about. So they should just take Adachi's the 3D model from vanilla Persona 4, not Golden, because this shouldn't look good. Take his head from the original Persona 4 and just totally mash it onto Snake's body, and then just take that one level and release that as the game, and also region lock it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Persona 5 Ground Zeroes. There we go. And then stay tuned for Persona 5 The Phantom Pain.
Yeah, you have to pay $30 for their 2-hour long game in April.
Exactly.
Yes.
Almost spit out my soda.
But what other news was there?
Got some Persona Q news. We got kind of an explanation about how everything is going down with that, and basically it sounds more like an excuse plot than anything, which I think we already kind of expected, since it doesn't really make much sense. But it seems like the Persona 3 crew are doing their thing in Tartarus. They go through a door, and they find themselves in Yasukami High, and Persona 4 crew are doing something at a school festival. They go through a door, and they're in an alternate universe, and they're in Yasukami High. So, what do you expect?
Yeah,
So it's kind of like Project Frost Zone, but worse.
yeah, it's very much a case of let's just slap these things together.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
It's definitely a
Nah.
fan service.
Oh yeah,
I don't even think it sounds worse than Cross Zone, to be honest with you.
yeah. I mean, it's basically the plot of Marvel vs. Capcom, right?
That game has a plot?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I mean, doesn't
Yeah.
Marvel vs. Capcom 1, I'm pretty positive, has an actual story where
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 has a plot to the point that Marvel felt confident to tell people that it's written by Frank Tierney, who's an actual comics artist and stuff. And then you play the game and
basically
Arcade mode.
basically all it ever is. It's the same with Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 3. It's just there's some big bad guy, and for some reason these universes have to team up. And it's how can they be two universes? It's not like Street Fighter and Mega Man are in the same universe. But
exactly.
but anyways, moving on. So because that was really all that was to say about that, right?
Yeah.
I've actually got a question about Persona Q for any of you guys. Do you guys feel that we're sitting here making fun of it, and it is kind of stupid how the characters from 3 and 4 are meeting each other and whatnot. Do you feel that is going to hurt the game, that it doesn't have a compelling story?
Knowing Atlus is going to have a compelling story. It's going to be good, and then we're just going to sit there and enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like the tools we are.
I don't think that stuff hurts any of this spin-off stuff. Because people moaned. Well, some people moaned about how silly Arena is, and it is silly. It's silly. Arena's silly. Q is silly. The dancing game is silly. It's all very silly stuff.
Yeah.
And then, but Arena still sold bang up numbers. Golden still sold bang up numbers, even with the new stuff in it that is supposedly problematic. So I don't think it really matters. I think a vocal minority. It's like a vocal minority within a minority. You know what I mean? People are still going to Q will come out, and some people will play it and say, "Oh my God, this is horrible." It's probably going to sell well. It'll probably review well because it's by the Antagonistic guys who make pretty good games, and it's Atlus's story stuff.
yeah.
So it'll probably be well received from a critical standpoint. It'll probably do well in basically both aspects that really matter. And a couple, 5-10 guys complaining on GAF or GameFAQs or wherever about how dumb it is, that's not going to phase Atlus. It already doesn't. So
Especially if they
So do you guys feel that it's the gameplay that it's going to have is going to be able to, it's going to be so confident in its own gameplay, and it's, I guess the word I would use is fan service, that it doesn't really need a, original compelling story. It just needs its characters and its gameplay to stand on its own. Do you feel that way?
Absolutely. I think what it's going to be is just a good dungeon crawler with a lot of Persona references and nods and jokes and stuff to completed, because it's being made by the Etrian Odyssey guys. So I'm not even sure how close they're going to be to like the other Persona teams and stuff. I'm just assuming they're gonna just make like an Etrian Odyssey game, then slap the Persona stuff on top of it for all the fans.
Yeah,
that
I'm
would
down
be
with.
great. Yeah, that would definitely be great. And anybody who knows EO, that's a very rich game. I mean, the foes and the foe system. If you guys know what I'm talking about, you can look it up. It's awesome. And just the amount of customization you have with characters, like tech trees and stuff. It's really neat. It'd be pretty cool to see, like, you know, like for example, Chie, if she has like some sort of tech tree where one side she's a tank or whatever, and then other certain skills make her more of like a chef or something. She cooks better, makes steaks.
The thing to note with all this stuff is that they're like producing it. They're producing all of it from within the studio. Like Hashino is like overseeing all of it, and I think that's the thing that I can really respect about them trying to like expand the audience and the brand or whatever, is that it's not really like, it's not like if like when Square Enix or Capcom just like license out the property and give it to like a random studio and make an iOS game. Like they're making like all three of these things. They're all like they're all like on dedicated gaming devices. First of all, none of this is like a mobile game. They're all being produced like in-house. So I expect it all to be good. Like specifically to Q, it'll probably be, like you say, designed as deeply as the EO games are, and all the dialogue is going to be referential stuff about Yosuke being in trash cans, Mitsuru loves burgers, like all the stuff that you know get from the games. It's going to be that with a really like light actual plot. And really, we say it, I don't know about you guys, but on our podcast we say all the time, Persona 3 and 4 don't really have terribly deep plots. Persona 4 more so than 3. 3 has a pretty solid plot, but both games are really, they're more about the characters and how they develop. And I think that's definitely. You know, people know that, like going into Q, that's all they really have to do, I think, is just write those characters true to the way that people, you know, like them, and just make, you know, all the references and the in jokes and all that stuff, and they'll be good to go.
I mean, when is a crossover ever, you know, throughout the history of media, throughout the history of fiction, when are crossovers ever exceptionally like deep? You know,
right? Yeah, totally.
I mean,
someone tries to make a really deep crossover in fan fiction.
Yeah, well, that's true. I mean,
we don't talk about those.
Who went into Freddy versus Jason expecting a compelling plot? You know,
exactly.
That's the case.
Still waiting on the sequel.
Yeah, no kidding, right? But yeah, that's just I mean, people are going to debate all the time. We talk about this a lot, where people get hung up on what's canon and what's not. I mean, this obviously can't be canon, and who cares if it was? You can just move on with it, and we'll see how it goes. You know, we don't know what it's going to be. Maybe it'll have an interesting plot. Maybe it'll blow us away. Maybe this will be like the Citizen Kane of Persona games, and we'll all be blown away, and it'll be hailed as Game of the Year 2013. People won't even care, or 2014, I mean, and people won't even care about Persona 5 anymore because they'll just have Persona Q, right?
I hope it
IGN's
features
rating
Dante
will
from
just...
the Devil May Cry series.
I hope it does too. IGN's rating will probably just say Citizen Kane out of 10.
I hope it doesn't have. I hope it doesn't have Dante. I hope it has Don'te.
Yes, Spanish Don'te.
Oh, Spanish Don'te.
Yes, Don'te wearing a sombrero.
Yeah.
Were people calling him Dino? Were there some people calling that guy Dino?
Yes, they were.
They were. Yeah.
Oh gosh, because that's what I saw on Tumblr. It was like Tumblr DMC Dino. And I was like, what? And I saw those photos of that guy.
And there's a franchise that has really, really good writing. Devil May Cry, so good. Anyways, let's move along. So Rasen and Katsu, you guys have your own podcast, your own MegaTen podcast. How did both of you get into MegaTen, and what made you like it so much that you wanted to start a podcast?
You want to go first, Katsu, or should I? It's either way.
I'll go first. I don't know.
Right.
All right. So started way back in like, I guess 2008ish when Persona 3 FES came out. Mm-hmm. I got that game. I loved it. I couldn't play Nocturne or Rido games because they were M-rated and like they look really bad. So, I mean, Persona 3 FES was rated M, but it didn't look bad. So I couldn't play those games at the time, and so I played FES, then Persona 4, and then Persona 3 Portable. Then I got into the SMT. I got into SMT Nocturne. Then I played Digital Devil Saga, and it just blew up from there. And back in 2011, when Persona 4 Arena got announced in Japan, Me and a friend, we created a forum that's still up to this day, MayanakaMidnight.com. Created a forum for Persona 4 Arena, and right now we have a Persona 5 section, and our Persona 4 Arena sections now expanded to what's the word I'm looking for here? To compensate, I guess, for the sequel. Anyway. And then I met Rasen by chance. I just happened to because me and another admin named Glenberg, we were going to make a vlog for Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem and Persona 4 Ultimax, and we needed someone who was an expert on SMT. And so I just searched up on YouTube, and I happened to find Rasen's channel. I was like, "Oh, hey, who's this douchebag? He looks pretty knowledgeable."
That's exactly how it happened too. He emailed
exactly
me, "Hey, douchebag, want to be on a vlog?" And I'm like, "Sure, prick." And then we became friends.
Yeah, then we became best bros.
Wow.
And then a week or so after we did the vlog,
it was 3 in the morning,
Rasen.
by the way. This was totally unexpected. I'll take over from here. It was 3 in the morning. Yeah, it's 3 in the morning. Both of us are like incredibly bored. I'm looking on my YouTube channel, just like comments and stuff, and this is like the third comment I got. Someone's like, "You guys should do you should do a podcast," just me specifically. And I'm like, you know what? Why not? So like, I am Katsu at like 3 in the morning. Hey, want to make an SMT podcast? Sure. Next day we recorded the first episode and basically bullshitted the entire thing and posted it, and people really liked it, so we continued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I posted it on I posted it on SMTG, and I think that's what gave birth to the role-playing demons. I think those guys are from SMTG.
Armada, doesn't this sound kind of familiar?
Yeah, sounds very familiar to how podcasts that I know of got started with you and me. Yeah.
Yeah, you were like drunk, and I probably was a bit too, and we're like, "Hey, let's start a podcast." And like, okay, let's just do it. And then I have Skype recorder. It's like, I don't even know we're gonna host this. Whatever, we'll get it going. So, and then though, Rasen, I didn't hear how you got into SMT.
Oh well. This is starting the summer when Persona 3 FES, or the following summer after Persona 3 FES got put out on the PSN store, and I was fairly bored that summer. I didn't have much going on except for work and wasn't getting many hours. So I was talking to my friend. He was like, "Hey," because we file shared on PS3, so I got all his games that he downloaded. He got all of mine. He was like, "Hey, I downloaded an RPG that I think you would like." I'm like, "Yeah, whatever." And then I'm looking through all of his games that he's downloaded. You see the Persona 3 game he's talking about. I'm like, whatever, this shouldn't be that great. And I was talking to him about it, and he was explaining to me the premise of the game. I'm like, okay, this sounds kind of interesting. And he told me where he was in the game, which was around 20-ish hours. I downloaded the game overnight, got up, played it, and within 2 days I was at exactly the same spot he was. So yeah, I was addicted. I loved Persona 3. And I beat it within 2 weeks, I think. And from there, I'm like, well, I want to play more of these. These are great. So I looked up, found out that there's this entire franchise called Megami Tensei that had all these different games. So I'm like, well, I'll start from the beginning, which I actually really don't recommend. But I downloaded the fan translation for Shin Megami Tensei 1. And it was it's really hard and kind of troubling to get through because it's outdated kind of. But I got quite a interesting experience because I had no idea what the plot was coming in, which most people do now because it's ancient. But I was just shocked at what they had done with just the mythologies and just all of the ideology aspects and stuff. And I've always been one for researching religion and mythology and stuff. I just always was interested in that. And to find a game that had great gameplay and a story that added on to that and just researched and looked into that, I was fascinated, and then ever since then I've been an SMT fan.
That's pretty cool. It seems like almost everyone that I've talked to on here, or just everyone we have on, when we ask how did you get into Persona or whatever, they have a similar story to the ones you both told. I mean, even mine's the same way. It's like, oh, I saw a review for this game called Persona 3 on Game Trailers, and then I picked it up at an EB Games just because they really liked it, and then I couldn't put it down.
Yeah. I think I told you guys what happened to me, right? Because I was so I got a Vita on launch day, like out of sort of on a whim. I was like kind of convinced that I wouldn't like get one so soon, but I liked the reviews and stuff, and it looked cool. And I'd had a PSP, and I sold my PSP pretty early, and the Vita was kind of everything I had wanted the PSP to be, but it wasn't. So I got that. So I'd had it for months when Persona 4 Golden came out in the States, obviously. And I remember like seeing like news about it, about the Japanese release on sites and stuff, and being like, oh, I like JRPGs, so I'll probably get that when that comes out in the States. And then November came around, and I had forgotten about the game. But I think it was like it was like the night that the OT went up. I realized that it was like coming out. This is like a week prior because we were from NeoGAF and the official threads for Gamescope a week before the game releases. And it was around. It came out the 20th of that year, so it was November. So I was at home a lot because it was like Thanksgiving break was coming up or whatever. And I just ordered it. I was like, I've heard it's great. Like, and this is all I had really heard was that it was a JRPG and that it was like supposed to be really great with it was a really good story. But these were, I'm talking about like really really vague comments that I'd like briefly remembered like hearing over the years about the game. But I got it and I started playing it, that Thanksgiving weekend or whatever, and I just fell in love with it. I mean, like just like maybe like an hour into it, I was already like really really impressed with like the way it was written and like how detailed like the world and the characters were, and it was on from there. And I think I played through it. I played some of it like every night, and I think it took me like 2 months to finish it. But if you followed me on Twitter, November of 2012, you know I would not shut up about Persona 4 Golden. There was just no way. I was completely infatuated.
Yeah, that's everyone seems to kind of hear it through hearsay since it's not a, Persona even, Persona is a lot bigger than the rest of the SMT lexicon, at least in the West, but it's not a Final Fantasy at all.
Right. Yeah,
Oh,
it's not something you're gonna see like a commercial for. You know what I mean? You pick it up through like online forum chatter.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
all word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying we're not going to see the next Persona 5 trailer on the Spike Video Game Awards?
Actually, Jeff Keighley commented on that specifically and said
He
Persona
did.
5 would not
Really?
be there. Persona 5 would not be
said,
there.
Not only did he say it wouldn't be there, he said no, and we asked. So
Yeah,
they actually did
That's
approach
actually
them
pretty
to get it.
awesome.
I've
Yeah.
seen.
It's cool. Yeah.
I have to bring this up. You reminded me. Persona has been on the stage on the
Yes.
VGA Awards before.
We talked about this.
In 2007, it was nominated for Best RPG.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
Arena was, I think it won Best Fighting Game.
It won Best Fighting Game on Spike.
Yeah. Yeah, that I remember. Yeah, I remember seeing that game, and it was up against it lost to Mass Effect, of course. Even though it's a way better game than the first Mass Effect.
Shots fired.
Yeah, first Mass Effect's
Shots
not
fired.
that good. Sorry.
No, it's
Right,
not. It's
yeah,
not.
it's not
Sorry,
that
guys. Before you send us like hate mail about it, Mass Effect 2 was a much better game. Probably the best one in the series. But anyways,
Yeah, so they've been up there. I mean, it would be kind of cool, but yeah, it's definitely not going to be there. But Fallout 4 will be. I mean, never mind.
The Survivor 2099 will be.
Yeah, exactly. But so I wanted to ask you. So we've got two SMT aficionados here, and Armada knows lots too. I don't know much about the greater lexicon since a lot of those games are really, really long, and it's kind of hard for me to jump into really long RPGs. I always look at it as some weird time commitment. Don't ask; it's weird.
I know that feel. As like
I know that
someone
feel.
who is going through university right now, like it's so hard to just play anything right now, let alone an RPG that takes 50 to 70 hours at points.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Definitely.
But I wanted to ask all of you. There are many franchises under the Megami Tensei umbrella. What makes a game an SMT game, in your opinion? What is distinct? What makes all of those part of one whole?
In my opinion, it would have to be the fusion, because that seems to be the tie that binds all those games together, is that the core gameplay element, with regard to the combat, no matter which game it is, there's always some sort of demon or persona element where you are capturing, gaining these allies, and then fusing them with other ones to create new ones and give them new skills and things like that. And that has been a staple in all of these games. That's what I would say from a gameplay element, and I guess from a story element or a narrative element in the fiction, it would have to be the underpinnings in societal analysis, psychology, politics, the conflicts between law and chaos, and what neutrality is, and free will, how that plays into that, how religious aspects play into that. All a giant amalgamation of everything I just said would be the tie that binds when looking at it from the fiction side. That's what I'd say. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. I'd say pretty much from a gameplay standpoint too. It's basically I'd broaden it beyond fusion because Digital Devil Saga lacks fusion, but
yeah, it does have fusion.
I'd basically say like everything that reuses those same demons and kind of has you can see all of the themes correlate between each different series and spin-off that they've had over the years. There's definitely a lot talking about authority, how the world should work, how people should think and act. Just basic ideas like that they do a lot of creative things with.
All right.
I have to agree with both of you on that one. It's also a bit of a staple in the Megami Tensei franchise is the ability to choose your actions. In Persona and in Devil Survivor, later SMTs. What's the SST 1 and 2? You were able to choose what you've done, like what you said, and that would decide your alignment and all that.
Yeah, all the alignment stuff is way back in even the NES games that they had. So,
yeah, so the power of choice plays a huge part in these games as well.
Well, that's a good point. Now, to kind of expand upon that, between what makes the mainline SMT series, Persona, Devil Summoner, Strange Journey, and Digital Devil Saga distinct from each other. Like, you don't have to list each of those and tell what's unique to one, but just pick one and say, this is what is different enough that it's under the same it's in the same lexicon, same mythology, but it's its own thing.
I could be really generalizing here, but I'd say that just if we were to make a vertical slice, just write down and make a dichotomy between these two games, between the games in this series, you'd have Persona. Let's just say Persona 2, both the Persona 2 games and 3 and 4 and Golden on one side, and then everything else on the other. And I would say that the thing that would be dividing these two sort of groups of games would be that the Persona games are more personal. You know, I mean, they really are. They're very character driven. The every single character in the games, I mean, as far as I know, the main ones all have a character arc that they go through, and that becomes this focus, not the big lofty ideas that Nocturne is going to tackle, or Strange Journey, which I think is brilliant. It's my favorite of all the SMT games on the side there, and Devil Survivor 2. Those games are tackling these big ideas of the place of mankind and authority, like Rasen was mentioning earlier, and those sort of things. And Persona 2 a little bit, Persona 3 maybe a little bit, Persona 4 not at all. Those games sort of go into a different direction. So that's what I would say, and maybe that is overgeneralizing it, but I would split them down the middle like that.
It's very interesting because when you look at all of the spin-offs and side series and stuff, a lot of times when you look in the first installment of those series, they're fairly similar to the mainline series. Like I'll use Devil Survivor as an example. You could honestly just say, this is like Shin Megami Tensei 1, but in strategy RPG form. For Persona,
it really is.
Yeah, for Persona, you could say, this is like Shin Megami Tensei, but more character-driven and in a high school.
Absolutely.
And then over time, usually with like the second installment, or maybe even the third, they evolve into something. Yeah, they become something completely different.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like there's like a point after the first game in each respective series where they're like, okay, this is what we want to do to this franchise to turn it into its own brand. Part of this, hopefully no one takes this in the wrong way. Part of this has to do with Atlus being really small and wanting to reuse assets too, right?
Probably, yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
because all of those PS2 games basically all have like recycle models like crazy. Like,
They do. That was one of the things though that always really crazy impressed me about Persona 3 and 4 was that, like, when I'm playing them, I'm kind of, the music is repeating and you're spending time in maybe like 10 different locations, discounting dungeons, like 10 different like small like screens and environments or whatever. But I mean, like, honestly though, if you look at it from like a raw content perspective, there's not that many assets, and the soundtracks aren't as large as like a Final Fantasy. There may be like a third or a fourth of like what you would normally get for like a mainline FF game, which is like a 90-track soundtrack.
What people seem to not understand is that Atlus isn't as big as a company as they think.
no.
Atlus has only developed 2 games thus far for PS3. Yeah, they've only developed 2 games for the PS3, and that's Catherine and the upcoming Persona 5. Arena was developed by Arc System Works. Atlus only oversaw the project. So
Wasn't their biggest project they've ever backed so far? Wasn't that actually Demon Souls, and that wasn't even them?
yeah, that was
they
published
didn't
by
make that at
Atlus
all.
USA.
No, they didn't make that. I know.
Yeah.
I thought I read that earlier that was like the biggest financial project they've been involved with, or something like that.
Which is still fairly small, even from Software's perspective too.
Oh yeah.
It's just that Demon Souls blew up, and Atlus USA couldn't contain the amount of blowing up it was doing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they're definitely a smaller company. They're really profitable, and they create these pretty incredible games. Like, I don't even know how they churn out as many games as they do. But they're not a Square Enix. I would hazard a guess that Final Fantasy 13, 14, whatever, the most recent ones probably cost more than like all of Atlus's production costs in the past like 15 years.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
5,
yeah.
6.
F13 for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely.
Well, yeah, the FF13 I think is one of the most like expensive games ever made, and that's one of the reasons why it's garbage. A lot of the not because it costs lots of money, because money had to go into it, and you know what I mean. Things had to be watered down. But so yeah, no, I really like those responses. I always want to jump into the other series, because I'll admit it, I've only played Persona games. So a few people asked, and I'm wondering this as well. For those of you that have on our panel today, what for someone that started off with the Persona games, specifically the latter Persona games, what series would you recommend of the SMT franchise outside of Persona for someone that started with those games? What should they move on
Devil
to?
Survivor. I definitely recommend Devil Survivor.
Devil Survivor. Why is that?
Devil Survivor. I'm not trying to like stereotype and overgeneralize, but it does have those anime tropes that are present in the Persona, definitely Persona 3 and 4. It does have some of those anime tropes and anime characters that are in those games, so it's the most familiar to them. To the Devil Survivor characters are the most familiar to the Persona characters in terms of design and personalities. And it does have some of that core SMT gameplay, and it's also a strategy RPG, so it's something new as well. And it does delve into like the SMT plot style, that it isn't about the characters more so than the entire world and how messed up it is and how these characters are going to try and change it or whatever. And it's sort of like a here's what you're going to expect from the mainline SMTs and other side games like Digital Devil Saga. So brace yourself.
Absolutely.
What about Rasen Armada? What do you guys think?
I'm a bit torn here because I would suggest to somebody, hey, play Devil Survivor 2, not 1. 2 makes a lot of, let's say, like accessibility and streamlining issues that the first one had just go completely away. it does a lot of things really well. I would suggest Devil Survivor 2, okay? But that's the part of me that's thinking, okay, hey, what's going to be palatable for a modern, 2014 gamer who's going to be playing this game, okay? That has, that has played Persona 4. That's what I would suggest to them. But part of me also would want to suggest Nocturne. I think Nocturne is incredible, and it would give people a real taste of how SMT games are structured, the difficulty involved, the I don't want to say obtuseness. I mean, they are a little obtuse because they're older. They're a little antiquated. They're expecting you to do things that people just sort of took for granted 7-8 years ago. But it is really a really well made game, and despite its difficulty, it never screws you over. There's always a save point. There's always a way to come back to pick yourself up from getting beaten. Same with SMT4. SMT4 does this as well too.
Yeah.
But part of me wants to recommend Nocturne. And then I guess sort of a lingering thought within myself is that I really love Strange Journey. It's my favorite one, and I would highly recommend people that are familiar with SMT, people that have played Nocturne or played SMT4, if they're like, oh, I really like this, I want another one, I would suggest Strange Journey to them. Yeah.
Right on.
Mm-hmm. Interesting note. I think Nocturne, Katsura Hishino was designer on Nocturne, I do believe.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So there you go. That's the genesis right there, guys. Yeah, the genesis of modern Persona.
The genesis.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But what about you, Rasen? What do you think?
I'd say honestly either of the Devil Survivors. It's very odd because Devil Survivor 2 is basically Evangelion and SMT had a baby, made a game.
Oh, now I'm interested.
Oh,
yeah,
it's so good. Yeah, it is. Wow, that's a really good analogy. Like you think somebody would say that and they'd be like, "Oh, they're fucking with me," they're like making fun of it. But it's like, no, literally, these aliens, these angels, come down like one at a time, and they're the first one's more. I mean, the last one's more badass than the one that came before it.
Okay, hold up.
Yeah.
So, do I get to masturbate on an unconscious girl's corpse in this game?
Absolutely.
Yes,
there we
you
go.
do.
No, you don't.
Watch Evangelion, folks. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry,
No, but I will tell you this, Levito. You can get a waifu.
Oh my goodness.
The devil, in DS2, because it has a streamlined version of the social links called the Fate system.
Oh, I love the Fate system.
Yes.
It's so good. It is so good. So yeah, there you go.
Perfect. That's a perfect thing to bring up because I was listening to Cathedral of Shadows and a podcast that you may have heard of before, and I heard you guys talking about how you would like the S links to become more like fates. How about you explain to me what fates are and why you would want the S links to be more like them or what have you?
Rasen, since Devil Survivor 2 is your favorite, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, Devil Survivor 2 is my baby. I love that game. But so the Fate system, basically, think social links. You got your 10 levels, and you have that awkward first 3, maybe 1 or 2 levels of the social link where you just go out to eat and it's like, hey, how are you doing? It's pretty good. School's hard, man. And then you go eat ramen. Yeah. And then you just kind of leave and it's like social link up. And it's like, okay, that was interesting. I got a feel for the character, but I want to go into the meat of it. That's where the Fate system comes in. Because Devil Survivor 2 is on a 7-day time frame, there's only 5 levels to their system, and you get a bonus for each one, so you feel the added impact of getting closer to that character. Whereas with social links, sometimes it's a little bit harder to feel. It's more gradual with social links. So I think what I would like to see is either in Persona 5, if they did something where for each level you get something a little bit more, or if they just streamlined it so it was only 5 levels or 7 levels or whatever they decided it to be. Because that's, honestly, Devil Survivor 2, I think they reward you a little bit more, and I think gameplay-wise it makes more of an impact about becoming friends with your allies, and I think that's something that Persona should take charge of, because that's kind of what 3 and 4 have been really pushing. So I think social links should become definitely a lot more important, because I think I've even seen challenge runs and things, and people that just avoid all social links just for a challenge, and they can still get through the game fine, and something tells me that shouldn't really be allowed. You should try and get as many as possible.
Yeah.
Right. We had a really interesting discussion in our thread on NeoGAF the other night, and I think our general consensus, because of course we've gone over a lot of stuff like 1,000 times, and we still do, and argue about it and whatever. But I think the consensus at this point is that there should be social links should be just in general there should be like less but more. Like there should be like there's I think you've played Persona 4 right now, and there's like counting party members, there's like something like 30 social links. If not 30, then something real, then like a number real close to that. There's a lot of social links, but the way that they feel kind of like binary, like the same amount of time it takes to like cook a meal and get a drink out of a vending machine and go to a whole other like city all take the same amount of time. It would be better if sort of like the time that it took to do activities like that time varied, and just in general your interactions with characters were deeper. I would take 10 social links if they were all much deeper than they are in Persona 4. Like
Yeah.
if they all were far more involved, if the character was kind of living their own life and making their own decisions, characters had their own relationships. Levito made a really great point about how not every female character needs to be a romance option. Because I think and I said, I think that's a great idea, and I think that they should still continue to explore romance. And I think that if we're going to say that, I mean, one of the elements of romance is rejection, and how do you deal with that? I mean, I want to see what it would be like for a player to play that game and not be able to get the romance option that they wanted, because the truth is the world just doesn't work like that. I think everybody on this podcast has probably liked a girl who didn't like them back. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
man.
that
I don't want to talk about it.
right, okay. But you know what I'm
It's
saying?
okay, Katsu, I love you back. No.
So just in general, I mean, not even. I mean, just in general, I think what Rasen is saying, like, I think less but much more. I think that would be a good mantra for them to follow, because I think you're right at this point. Like, I think that, and I think Hashino realizes this too. At this point, the social links, they are really what makes Persona Persona. And I always say it's really important for each of the sub games to have their own identity, even though they're under MegaTen, because if they're not going to be, different, if you can't differentiate them, then why even bother having a separate franchise? They each need to be their own thing and have their own identity. And I think that's the kind of I think they finally they either achieved it or got on the path to getting there with Persona 3, because Persona 1 and 2, I think we all know, they're basically like, they're an SMT game, but it takes place in high school. And that's great if they're going to keep the SMT name on them. But if they're going to do what they're doing now and release these games like it's just Persona and not Shin Megami Tensei hyphen, then they need to be their own thing. And I think that's definitely the defining factor of the series at this point. So that needs to grow for the franchise to grow.
Yeah, well, I find a lot of the ways especially in Persona 4, the social link. Hell, I could say this about Mass Effect. I think the social links are there, especially when it comes to like hetero couples. It's like a man and a woman can love each other in a platonic way. Atlus and BioWare, both you need to understand this. Like, I know this comes into the whole waifu aspect where it's like, well, I love Rise, so I want to romance her, or I love Naoto, so I want to romance her. But it's like, as Norgo said, in real life, things don't always work out the way you want them to. That's just a fact of life. And I would, there's people would say it would take away player agency in a way, and like I could kind of see that. But at the same time, it's like, you don't have to. If we're going to get closer and closer to, if it's going to be a dating sim, I think that like that aspect of it, that I think there has to be, a little bit of reality there. It's like, because it could be a much more impactful way if it's like, say you spend
a long time with Naoto. Naoto calls you 2 weeks later. Noragami, I'm pregnant.
Yeah.
There you go. There's your reality.
And that's the thing about player agency, because I kind of like the idea that in like Persona 3 and 4, and also you could say in Mass Effect, although I think Mass Effect does the worst job of it. So you've got all these dating options, and you can take on multiples, and if you don't, then that's kind of up to you. Like it's up to you as the player to be mature. Again, everything is relative. As mature as you can be playing a video game like Persona. It's up to you to be mature and say, I'm only going to go with one person. And that's really where the agency comes in. But I think and we're kind of seeing a curve of this like now with like game designers are writing a lot of papers on this and stuff. not everything is about the player, and not everything needs to be up to the player. And again, I think Levito is right. It'd be pretty great if there was that one love connection that you just straight up could not make, and it was a too bad, so sad moment, and you had to deal with it. You can't make games like that. You can't make games like that where every single aspect you're like, well, if the player can't do this, then we better not throw it in. It can't work like that. It makes for lame game design. There's got to be some stuff that the player has to deal with, because that's how you make challenges, right? I mean, like that's ultimately how it works. You have to confront them with things, and I just think presenting that roadblock would be mad cool. Because even like now, we make jokes about waifus or whatever. It doesn't really matter who's dateable. Like there's still going to be fan art for characters. You know what I mean? If it's a great character with great dialogue that you end up spending time with, there's still going to be a ton of fan art and like love for that character. They just won't have been a romance option. It's possible. It's possible. They just got to do it.
Hey, I wanted to go back and talk about the fate system in case somebody was listening to this and didn't know what it is. The way that the fate system works is in a nutshell, it's streamlined social links. What happens is instead of 10 ranks, they have 5 ranks, and the characters in Devil Survivor are operating on intervals of 30 minutes. Is that right, Rasen? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, it's 30 minutes.
So when you're playing this game, it's very much like if you've ever played a strategy RPG like Final Fantasy Tactics or Tactics Ogre or Fire Emblem or whatnot. The events in the world are all happening within a 24-hour clock, and they're happening within 30-minute intervals, which are events. So if you can imagine this, when you open up a menu screen in the game or whatnot, you're going to be seeing some sort of like menu that's showing like, okay, here's what's happening at 1:30. Okay, at 1:30 there's going to be a riot. At 2 o'clock your social link character is going to be at this venue, and at 2:30 your social link character is going to be interacting with this other character. Okay, those are the things that you'll see in Devil Survivor 2, if I'm not mistaken. And you can choose if you want to go talk to a certain character or go do a battle or whatnot, and everything that you do takes a half an hour. And so essentially what happens is everything that the characters are doing and every event in the world is dynamic based on what you choose to do. So you can actually miss social links by doing something at the exact same time something is going on. And the game does this to you constantly. The game will have, okay, you can either go talk to the pink-haired girl or the blue-haired guy at 3 o'clock. And you have to make a choice as to which one you're doing. And not a spoiler, but just sort of the plot of Devil Survivor 2, your characters have this app that shows them when somebody dies. Like you see it like a YouTube video of someone's gruesome graphic death before it actually happens. And as you can imagine, the characters in the game are sort of seeing their own deaths. Like they're pulling out their phone and they're like, "Oh my god, I just watched a video of me getting killed. Me getting killed in like a train accident or something. We have to prevent that from happening. It's going to happen at 1:30 today." And so, as you can imagine, the game kind of goes on from there. But that's kind of how the fate system works. And I'd like to see that happen in the Persona series. It's really neat to see that the social links in Persona are really awesome. And then the way that the fate system works in Devil Survivor 2 is like better than the social links. So it'd be really neat to see them sort of do a hybrid of the two for an upcoming game, because it's really nice to think like, hey, there's like these dynamic links, That'd be pretty cool to see something like that in Persona 4, if we could go back in time and see like, okay, hey, Yosuke can't hang out at this time because he's working at Junes, but Yukiko for some reason is at the floodplain at this time. What's he doing? Yeah. And you go there and if you were able to see the world in little hour increments or whatnot, and what the other characters were doing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool. I mean, to touch on the I remember what I was going to say. To touch on the whole social links need to be expanded aspect, though, I think that because we always make jokes about how like in Persona 4 is particularly bad for this, where you can have like 5 girlfriends that all love you and they all want to spend Christmas with you, and you can be all dating them all at once, and like none of them catch on. There's no, it doesn't affect the overall plot at all. I kind of want it so like.
Yeah, I That was one of the things that I really wanted in Persona 4 Golden, was that your love interest or interests influenced the plot in some way, shape, or fashion. Events were fine and all that, little side events, but I wanted actual plot integration.
Yeah, there needs to be some, because like obviously if you're in a relationship with someone and if you're gonna go to do something, if they're gonna deal with like this heavy content where they're like, okay, we're gonna go after this serial killer, the way that character interacts with you is going to be different than the other party members, and there should be. It's actually, to bust out everyone's favorite term these days, it's actually a bit of Ludo-narrative dissonance, where it feels like there's...
Oh, let me tell getting all Gama Sutra on us.
Yeah, but if it feels like there's two Risei. There's your girlfriend Risei, and then there's the Risei that's in the mainline story,
Yeah, like it's all happening
exactly.
in a vacuum or something, right?
That's another criticism that it also goes to Mass Effect, and to Mass Effect's credit, it does like the night before you go on like the final mission or whatever, whether it's Mass Effect 2 or one of the other games, you go and you have that talk, but it's still this weird thing of like in cutscenes relevant to the plot, I'm this one character, but then when I'm talking to you in private and it's in romance mode, it's almost like I'm a different person, almost not completely, but that dissonance is there.
Yeah, so Inorigo, like you were talking about Mass Effect, I'm actually playing through Dragon Age Origins right now, and oh my god, that game, it does it. It does it. Your relationship with the characters actually carries through into idle chat in dungeons.
You know
and
what
in
it
combat.
does.
It is. It is done so well. Like here's my
done
example
really well.
I saw this and it blew my mind because we've talked about it before. Like, oh, I wish the social links didn't feel like they were in a vacuum. I wish that it actually had some merit and actually had some weight to what goes on. In Dragon Age, I was cheating on Morrigan, right? She was like my girlfriend or whatever, and I was cheating on her with Liliana. And Morrigan puts this, like, the character, the witch, right? The witch Morrigan. She puts on this whole act like, oh, yeah, I don't care. I mean, you and I, we're just kind of like, crossing in the stream. Yeah, like, there's nothing serious here or whatever. The moment you start cheating on her, she becomes a jealous, like, bitch to you. She is awesome. She is like, you know what? I don't share. And that's all she says. She's like you'll be fighting and you'll beat a battle, and she'll say something like, you know what? I don't share. And you're like, what? What did she just say that for? And you'll turn around and talk to her, and then she'll be like, it's about time you noticed me. I'm angry at you. It's just like, just bring it up. Like, and it was really neat. So, I figure I might as well mention this. There's a lot of weight to it too. Like, you will be denied certain abilities. Like the characters only have certain abilities and stat parameters as long as you are in the positive spectrum of social link or whatever with them. The moment you get out of that, they lose all of that. So they actually lose combat effectiveness. Second, there's only certain quest and dialogue choices and treasures that can be found in the dungeons when the characters are at a certain level of relationship. If you're not in that with them, if you're in the negative, they don't bring up the special dialogue options. They don't find the secret treasure. They don't do these different things in the dialogue tree. Those things are all denied to you. So there's a lot of weight into who you choose to be, your friend or whatnot. So basically, in Dragon Age, if you cheat on any of the ladies, you get screwed. And if you cheat on the guys too, you get screwed. They call you out on it. It's really cool.
I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I don't even know how I managed to forget about that, because I do love Origins. I just haven't played it in a while. But you're totally right, though. It walls off content and stuff, and the relationships aren't in a vacuum. Because I remember when I played the game, I also romanced Morrigan, and there's another character in the game who's like an older elvish mage, Wynn, and she's either the oldest member in the party or one of the oldest members in the party. But she kind of develops a sort of, if you have a positive relationship with her as your character, that's not because in Dragon Age you can have an antagonistic relationship with party members. If you have a good relationship with her, she kind of takes on this sort of like motherly, like maternal grandmother type role to you. And if you date Morrigan, Wynn is a very sort of like religious, faithful mage, and Morrigan practices bad magic, because I don't want to get into Dragon Age lore. But basically, that's it. Wynn plays magic straight, and Morrigan doesn't. So Wynn doesn't like Morrigan. So as you get deeper in the relationship with Morrigan, when you go and you talk and you have conversations with Wynn will kind of talk to you about how she's sort of unhappy about you being with Morrigan. And it got to the point where pretty late in the game, it got to the point where Wynn, she actually accepted that my character was in a relationship with Morgan. So it definitely, it's weird that Mass Effect doesn't play off that stuff, because Origins is like a 2009 game. You know what I mean? If they wanted to implement this stuff in Mass Effect 2, they could have, and they didn't. Same with the third. But the point is, he's right though. I mean, it's kind of exactly what we're asking for, where the relationships don't exist in a vacuum, and they're also still connected to the systems. And I should say, when he says that certain content unlocks when you at different relationship levels, it doesn't even just go one way. So it's not a Persona 3 situation where you want everyone to like you. There are benefits to having an antagonistic relationship with certain characters.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. One of the ones that a lot of people, I'm sure, don't do is making Liliana your rival. It's one of the girls, one of the waifus, quote unquote. She's a really pretty red hair, so a lot of people are like, "Oh, I want her to be my girlfriend," but she makes a great villain. If you are just playing a certain way and you become rivals with her, the final showdown of the outcome of that relationship is awesome. It is so cool, and somebody walks away from it, and it's really awesome. Another thing too is your bro, right? Your guy Alistair. He's like your Yosuke or your Junpei in Dragon.
Pretty much. Mm-hmm.
He's like your best bud. I mean, he really likes you. But if you don't bring him along in the party, if you replace him, he's a tank, okay? And if you replace him with another tank defensive player or whatnot, he starts to get jealous. And he'll bring it up like, "Hey, you guys, went into that combat. I'm glad to see you're safe, but I could be useful to you at your side." And then eventually it turns into resentment, where he's like, "You know what? I really don't like you very much. I can't believe you're just cutting me out of all this stuff." And the characters actually acknowledge how much you use them and how much you do not use them in parties.
And they'll leave if they really have had it. They'll straight up ditch you.
Yeah, I had that Sven guy just straight up leave. Mm-hmm. He was like, "Hey, this isn't working out. I'm out of here." I was like, "Okay, could you imagine if Kanji fucking pieced out on you in Persona 4?"
Something we were talking about actually in one of the Cathedral of Shadows episodes is, imagine, this would be the greatest troll ever. Imagine if Persona 5 played exactly like 3 and 4, okay? Like, no apparent penalties if you cheat on any of the girls or anything, and then they find out the week before the final battle, and all of them just leave. It would be the best thing ever, and you couldn't use them in the final battle. That would be so great.
That would be wonderful. But the one thing I'd like to point out about Dragon Age is another game that the plot is not very interesting. Dragon Age's plot is about an ancient evil coming back, and you have to stop it. That's it.
It's the characters, yeah.
But it's I'd say it's far less than even P3 or P4. It's just it's every fantasy trope story ever in Western fantasy. But
the actual plot is incredibly generic. Yes.
But that whole entire game is about social interaction, and I would even judging from the trailers of Persona 5, it's not going to be that. There is an overarching theme, 3 was death, 4 was truth, and this looks like this is going to be enslavement to many different things, but not literal enslavement for those of you who thinks it's going to take place in a prison. For God's sakes,
Persona 5 Orange is the New Black.
We're not. The MC of Persona 5 is not going to be the ghost of Nelson Mandela. I hope it's not too soon.
Oh, it'd be like, "You dropped the soap, bitch."
Oh God.
Social link up.
Welcome to Persona. Get my rank on with you.
So that's why that ball and chain is there.
Oh, for God's sakes! All right,
we're delving into dark territory.
The cop from Persona 3 could be a guard that sells shivs and stuff to people.
Yeah. You can one of the boss battles is going to be that one scene where they totally shank the guy in Breaking Bad. That's you and your party.
Yeah, you have a 2-minute window where you have to get away from the enemies trying to shank you.
Yes.
Oh no! Have you guys seen The Wire? That has the best shank scene ever.
Okay, let's turn it back to Persona a bit. But yeah, that I definitely like the idea though of more. It sounds weird to say, but less plot and more that integration. I forgot how good Dragon Age was at all that.
Yeah.
But
Hold on.
Because say that. That's your point, though, right? Like, even though Dragon Age, like the overall plot of Dragon Age, even though it's
Exactly.
basically like a garbage dime store fantasy novel, the character interaction totally makes it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, that's part of it. That's most BioWare games.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that would be cool. Like, I love the idea of party members leaving, because that's gonna leave a lasting impression on you. Because whenever that happens in Dragon Age, it's like, oh shit, I really fucked up.
Yeah, it hurts
actually.
when that happens. Yeah, you
That,
really feel it.
Devil Survivor 2 does that actually towards the end. If you're not good enough friends with someone and they're on an opposing side, they'll just say, "Well, I'm done." Yeah, they're done.
Peace out
And
on you.
that was one of the lasting moments that I will never forget from like, I didn't even like the character, but at the end of Devil Survivor 2, if they're not friends with you, they just leave. And that like stuck with me. I didn't even care about the character before that point.
I know who you're talking about. I was surprised when he left too.
But it's interesting because obviously, Persona's thing. We were talking earlier about what makes each franchise distinct in SMT, but Persona's is obviously social interaction, and it's been a long time since 2008, and I think they did in a lot of ways step it up a lot from Persona 3. We talked about this the other day, where like Makoto is a very he seems sociopathic at times, whereas Yu doesn't with his responses. But I think they definitely need to expand on that, because wouldn't that be great? Because like we always use Persona 4 as the example, but imagine you're about to go face Izanami, and then Yukiko finds out that you used her, so to speak. You said you loved her, but you didn't actually. And then she's like, I don't even know if I can. I mean, that'd be pretty horrible. It's like, I'm not going to save the world if you could do it, because you cheated on me. But something like that. Because like
especially since she's in school, she's a high school student, she's a teenager, so those emotions are going to be amplified even more.
Yeah,
and she might really just peace out on you on the final battle because her heart's been broken.
Yeah, or what if there was like debuffs? Like, it's like, okay, I'm still gonna help you defeat Izanami, but like my mind is so somewhere else right now.
Yeah.
Or like because obviously you can't, when you're going through shit in real life, no matter what you're doing, it kind of affects other things. Like, you might be grumpy, or you might not be able to focus. It happens all the time. But yeah, that's something they need to. I really hope they step up their game on, because man, that would be so great. Like, some people would hate it because there's like completionists that they have to get every single social link to rank 10, and which means they would have to romance every female character, so on and so forth. And it seems like that those people would be upset, but I say to hell with them, whatever. Deal with it.
Well. Something I want to add is something my friend always tells me too, is because it lacks that like dynamic feeling, a lot of times some of like the, I guess, minor social links kind of just feel like the other person is talking to you and they're just bouncing ideas off of you, and you're like, yeah, that sounds great, and then they kind of like come up with like, they're like, wow, you're the best friend ever, and it's like you say 3 things during like your meeting with them.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's true. It's very true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and then
pretty much.
There are certain social links where you just really don't care about the person and their problems. I think that for me that came up, and for a lot of people that came up a lot, especially Persona 3. The magician social link guy, Kenji.
Yeah.
And
somehow as soon as you said this, I started thinking of Kenji. Man.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You just really don't care about him.
I started
Not
thinking
at
of Bebe. How many of you guys did Bebe? That's like the most
Not
elusive
me.
fucking social link in that game. Bebe.
I really don't care about him.
No, I
It's
didn't
like,
do that one.
yo, I really want to make a kimono.
I always thought it was pronounced BB, but okay.
The guy that looks like
Saki's
Beavis from
brother.
Beavis
Saki,
Butthead, yeah.
Saki's brother. That social link. I remember I started it, and I'm like, fuck this. This is not good.
Yeah.
I don't care at all.
I forgot his name. I've never done his social link. I forgot what his name was.
It's lame.
It's really
His
lame.
name is Naoki.
That guy in the drama girl.
Well,
So lame.
What's his name? Katsu?
Naoki.
That's it. Yeah, that one was completely interesting. Like, I mean, that's gonna happen no matter what, because people have varying tastes. But the whole less is more idea would be much better.
If his social link went up to 5, I would have definitely completed it my first few playthroughs of the game.
Sometimes social links can feel very grindy too. Like sometimes I get so pissed off when it's like you went to the food court with Chia. It's like, for fuck's sakes, it's not what. And then nothing happens. You're like,
now I'm like Naoto's S Link could not. It was like, okay, can we just get this, like, get on with this? Like, how many times are we gonna like stand outside the bookstore and, like, you know what I mean? It's like, look, can we just get through it? Because I feel your pain. Like, I feel for the story, but it's like if I have to stand outside of a bookstore with her one more time, oh man.
Oh yeah, exactly. How do all of you feel about stats tying into how you interact with the character? Because, like, you need a certain amount of intelligence to talk to this person.
No, I think all that stuff is brilliant. Just like from a pure system standpoint, as far as like your personal statistics, and then doing the S links, and then that tie into like the personas you get. The systematic connectivity in the games, I think, is just absolutely brilliant for me.
Well, yeah, of course. I just meant like there's another kind of grindy element there too with the.
Yeah, there is. When you know, like, the test is coming up, and you're gonna have to go home, and, like, especially if you're getting towards the end, and like your knowledge isn't high enough or something, because something's coming up that you want to do when one of those personal stats isn't up. It does also get kind of grindy. I remember having to pull, like, every night. I'm like at the shrine, like pulling one of the tickets or whatever, or doing whatever, studying, to get that stat up. Like, come on.
I really like that. And you know what? I watched the Giant Bomb endurance run of Persona 4, and they love it too. Like, I think that you have to put yourself into the shoes of when you first played the game for the very first time. Whether it was Persona 3 or Persona 4 or whatnot, and you came across one of those things, and it was like your courage increased. And you were like, whoa, what? I have a stat? There's like a parameter for that? Like, I'm increasing that? What's going on? And how do I increase that more? And then you run across somebody that's like, hey, if you had enough knowledge, you could talk to Mitsuru after school. And you'd be like, whoa, okay, I get this. I really want to do that. And it's sort of like, I don't know, like, kind of like guides you, or it opens up a pathway for you to sort of like carve out your own story, so that you're not just like, oh, I want to get all the social links to rank 10. That's kind of like a second playthrough kind of thing. So
you're right. And the things that I'm talking about now, they definitely were things that I felt on my second playthrough. But I think you're right. Like that first playthrough, like even for me especially, and I think we all like play.
Oh, it's so good, isn't it?
I think we all play JRPGs or whatever. But on that first playthrough, though, when you are doing all the activity, like all the school stuff and the social link stuff, that is so like not in any other JRPG. Like, it feels so fresh. You're like this is awesome. Yeah, because you don't do any of that stuff in like any other JRPGs. And now we have games coming out now, like Danganronpa and all that other stuff, that they're saying, oh, there's stuff in it that's kind of like social links. Like, social links are like a thing that has like inspired the design in different games. Yeah.
So would you guys want to see, like, I don't know if you guys have played the Elder Scrolls or the Fallout games, but would you want to see something like where the more that you boost up a stat, like let's say your speechcraft, your ability to talk to other people, the more that you build that up, the higher percentage you have to succeed in some sort of like persuasion?
I think.
Would you want to see that, or would you like it to just be how it is right now? I guess in the Persona games, let's just call it streamlined. It's not even that complex. Which would you like to see?
To be honest, if you're gonna bring up the Elder Scrolls, at least the later Elder Scrolls and the later Fallouts, I honestly think Persona is basically the same way. It's like you hit a button enough times and then you get better at it. Like that. Yeah. That's basically all it is in all.
Pretty much.
It's like, oh, I studied enough. Now I'm smarter, and now I can talk to Naoto, or in Skyrim's case, it's like, oh, I clicked, the smartass for the remark, so now I'm more crafty. But those are not. I don't think those are deep at all. I think they're actually.
Well, what do you think about this? In Fallout, there's a quest that you can do where you go and you read all this guy's like old journals or something like that, and you find that the guy was very knowledgeable about computers or something. Mm-hmm. And so throughout the process of doing the entire quest and going through the little story that's involved in it or whatnot, you gain enough computer knowledge to where you're able to go and whenever somebody is talking about something, a guy says, "I'm not going to let you in here," and you get an option that says computer knowledge, persuasion, or something like that, because you've unlocked that. So it's like, I would actually like to see that sort of element show up, but I don't know if it's necessary, in a Persona game. I mean, there's a lot going on in those games, so the more simple the approach, I think the better, because there's just so much stuff.
Please don't farm out development to Obsidian. Please.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Be glorious.
It'd be nice if it was a little more dynamic in a way.
Oh, certainly. Yeah.
Or not. Actually, I think it's pretty dynamic already. It's just kind of like it gets kind of monotonous because there's only like so many ways to up your diligence or whatever. Like I can't remember what stat it is for Nanako's social link, but there is a point where it's like she's not ready to open up to you. I think it's the rank 5.
It's
That's a wall. That is totally a wall of the game.
What stat is that? I think it's
compassion.
Understanding.
Yeah, understanding. And I remember the first 2 times I played through the game, I could never get it because that's a really hard stat to level up.
You have to like fold cranes or some shit.
Yeah,
part-time job.
Yeah, and it can get kind of. I mean, it's an interesting way to do things, but it does kind of. It'd be cool if there's like in an Elder Scrolls game or a Fallout, they made it a little more. Like, I did this certain activity. I guess they do that. I don't know how to put this, but say there's a certain quest, a side quest you could do that helps you update that and makes it a little more interesting. Not just like, oh, I fucking helped the fox do something 9 times. But yeah, I kind of
talk to Nanako better.
Yeah, I'm better because I talked to a fucking yippy fox.
Completely related.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So kind of bring it back to SMT a little bit. I want to know what you guys think about SMT4. We recently had a podcast where we were talking about Shin Megami Tensei 4 and it being on the 3DS. I want to know what you guys think about that. I mean, you've played or you know about the previous SMT games. So 4 came out on the 3DS, and what do you think about it being there and not being on the PS3 or how it played? What are your thoughts on that, Rasen and Katsu?
I just want to interject quickly about this. We actually had a specific request from 2 European listeners to not spoil it, so try not to do spoilers.
Okay, so what happened in the game is
Actually, I'll say when 3DS got announced, like for the console, I was completely fine with it. A lot of people were bummed, mainly because of like the technical limitations that causes. But
yeah.
In my opinion, this is just from a personal standpoint, so this doesn't really affect others. But like, I really don't. As long as the game looks okay, like graphically, they can pretty much do anything, and I'll still play it as long as the gameplay and story is there. So a lot of people were really bummed about first person. A lot of people were really bummed about just the overworld demons being little like sprite bubble pixel things. But like, I'm like, you know what? I still have this SMT story I love. I still have all these demons to collect. I'm fine with it. So I was fine with it being on 3DS. I can totally understand though where someone wants something like Nocturne 2 or something to live up to that.
The thing was the bulk of the SMT players started with Nocturne or Digital Devil Saga or Raito, what have you. So when a new SMT was in production or whatever, they expected to be on a Sony console or just being on consoles in general. But then it turns out, hey, SMT4, handheld. A lot of them were really bummed. They weren't really expecting that. I remember when it got announced, some people were just like, well, looks like I'm going to have to get a 3DS. Yay. And just...
Well, people were terrified about Persona 5 being that too.
Yeah. Oh man, when me and Katsu were watching the review live, and when Q was announced, we both like, okay, let's check Twitter and see how many people are angry.
Yeah, let's check Twitter.
But it was so glorious. Oh my god, it was a glorious carnival, stupid.
Oh, Ron, you were worried too. Don't even go there.
Man, if you look at my Twitter feed on that night, there's like no freakouts.
It was dismal at that point for me.
I mean, I think like all of us, there was nothing as bad as like like when I say freakouts, I mean there was nothing as bad as like, oh my god, F you Atlus, the world is over, I'm over the man. Some people's Twitter feeds that night, man, that was so great.
So Persona Q, it really makes sense because it's an EO, it's an Etrian Odyssey game pretty much. It's a dungeon crawler, and whatnot, and it makes sense being on that 2-screen format. And Shin Megami Tensei 4 did as well, but with what it pulled off at Nocturne, and Ron and Kyle, you guys know about this, how I feel about it. I really feel that it just deserved. I mean, it's the 4th title of the titular title for Shin Megami Tensei, and I really felt that it needed to be on some like a grand stage, especially after we had already seen Catherine. And known that they had an engine and stuff, and it would be like, how cool would it be if it was there? And
I'll stop right here and tell you that I think that you're wrong, and that it's a missed opportunity not having Persona 5 on the 3DS, because they could have told a really interesting story about the duality of existence. And,
yeah, right.
And it would be great because they would explain what duality of existence means.
And that's another thing. And that's another thing that when Persona 5 got announced, I got curious. I didn't tell Rasen about this. I got curious and went to SMTG around that time. And there were some people who were kind of upset that, Persona 5 is on a console. Why wasn't SMT4 on the main console?
Yeah.
There's a lot of...
there's a lot of expectations when it comes to how passionate people are about these games. Hey, there's a lot of intangibles. Me personally, I have a lot of intangibles with SMT4, but it being on the 3DS made that game really lame to me. It was so lame to play. Like, okay, the sprites, the dialogue and the thing and whatnot. I don't really get. I'm not really like capturing like an essence or a vision of this world when everything is just so static and boring. It's just it just seemed like a cheap little SMT4, or like Shin Megami Tensei maybe doesn't matter so much to Atlus anymore. I guess that's how I felt. I don't know, but okay. Well, that's interesting. What you guys feel about it. So you're pretty neutral about it. Where do you want?
I have a theory though. Actually, no one talks about this, but this is something I've always wondered. So we know SMT4 is being made during Index's financial issues. I almost wonder if the reason, because let's be honest, SMT4 seems kind of rushed in a lot of areas. They reuse they reuse PS1 sprites. We're talking.
They do. The Medusa fight with what the fuck? Yeah,
that was actually a new sprite. Surprisingly, but
no, it wasn't. That was from
that was completely new.
Are you serious?
That was completely new.
Oh my god,
that was new.
That was awful. That thing didn't go through Q&A or something.
Yeah, we don't like the redesigns.
That looked like bad fan art.
It was really bad.
Yeah, the redesigns look more like tattoos than they. Can you imagine like the archangels?
Can
you just imagine some of the characters?
They all look like tribal tattoos.
I always say this about when people bring up graphics, and like it. I mean, like I can play games from 15 years ago, and it's not really a big deal. But there is something to say for visual presentation. You can say that it's not. It's a visual medium. It's part of a visual medium. I mean, if graphics truly didn't matter, then we should all just be playing like text adventures, and that's it. But there is a lot to be said for fidelity and not technical prowess. So it should recognize that there's a difference between technical prowess and how good the art direction is or what have you. I'll use film as an example. It's like Avatar was this gigantic movie of a bunch of animators masturbating on a film reel, and it looked amazing. but there wasn't really anything, because the story was so weak and so much of it was so heavy-handed that a lot of it doesn't resonate with you. Like I can't remember a specific shot from that movie, but like to use Journey as an example, like there's so many times in Journey where the visuals really helped the experience, and they stick with you because of that. And that, I think there is a lot to be said for that, because visual presentation is important. Like I brought this up last time. It's like there's no ILM special effects in Breaking Bad, but there's like incredible cinematography throughout the whole show, and a lot of images will linger with you, even just tiny little things. I do think that if you're in a visual medium, then like games, like film, whatever, that's important.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And mainly just the thing with SMT4 is the consistency. We have sprites and designs from
Conoco art from like the 90s, and
we have like a 20-year span in one game, and it just doesn't, like, sometimes in the same battle too, like you have a 90s sprite right next to something they made in 2013, and it's like should these really be next to each other?
That's not very good. But
Yeah.
I think the point that you wanted to get at though was that, and you're right, I haven't seen anybody mention this though. SMT4 probably was somewhat of a safe production because if we found out
Absolutely.
whatever time it was that we found out that Index was in financial trouble, you know, they knew months before. I mean, the company is small. People are gonna talk and it's gonna hurt the production. Those guys know, like, hey, stuff is not right now, and it's Shin Megami Tensei 4. Maybe we should be realistic about what Shin Megami Tensei as a series is at this moment, and not be incredibly ambitious as far as asset work is concerned.
That's unfortunate though that they would have to scale back the project
Absolutely,
because of that.
totally.
Because you know it is the mainline series, and it seems like everyone here, to a degree, thinks that it deserved a little better.
Yeah. I mean,
after so many years after Nocturne, I would think it would be a pretty epic production.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Even on the 3DS, they didn't really use like the system to its fullest advantage too. Like, it's a lot of like.
I have to argue even games like Fire Emblem Awakening and to an extent, Rune Factory 4, they took advantage of what the 3DS was capable of, but with SMT4, it just felt like.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the same way
too.
too.
On the PSP, honestly.
Yeah, it really could have.
Yeah, I mean, no, before a lot of people, because we've talked about this exact thing before, and a lot of people obviously misconstrue it for technical prowess. Like I said earlier, it's like no one is asking SMT for Persona 5 to be like CryEngine 3 games.
PC exclusive.
Yeah, you need like 2 NVIDIA GTX Titans to run this game, but
only on Linux.
Yeah.
Gabin's dream.
But it would be nice because the same thing would happen to Persona 5 if it was not necessarily, because there's some good looking 3DS games, and the same thing with the Vita, but there would be some limitations because a lot of people thought that okay, they're obviously going with 3DS for most of their development because it's a super cheap system to develop for, and they've already they already have a lot of engine work on that system, but it's still kind of a miracle that it ended up a PS3 game because was it Hoshino said that they started it as a mobile game.
As a mobile game, but they knew the fans wanted it to be a console game.
To be HD, yeah.
To be HD.
No, yeah.
So,
that
makes sense.
I mean, people still want PS4. I really don't care at this point. I'm just really glad it's I do care.
Coming out.
At this point though, I think everything will be fine, and they're owned by Sega now, and money is not an issue anymore.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they said that they wanted to develop it on PS4, but they didn't have. They said they didn't have the resources, I believe.
Yeah, that was in those interviews. He did say that he knows that there's want for it to be on the next gen systems, and they just don't have the resources right now, and that makes as much sense. And they might port it down the road. Porting to PS4
it just might be on the
supposed to be pretty easy. Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that also the Gaikai stuff. Yeah, that could work also.
So, I got a question for you guys. Where do you want SMT to go from here? And, before I leave you with that question, I just want to bring up a game that they had announced earlier for, I'm assuming, the Wii U, and that is the Fire Emblem SMT crossover.
Oh my god, is that canon? Do I have to worry about this?
Absolutely.
So canon. Oh my god, it's so canon for both games. We're fucked.
Yeah.
No, the teaser site went up, the nice big red site for 11/24 or whatnot, and this game is it's AWOL. It's nowhere to be seen. Right? I mean, has anybody heard anything of this? I really want this game because I loved Fire Emblem. The newest one was awesome, and I think SMT is really cool, and it would fit right in. But I have no idea what this game's going to be. I mean, is this where you guys want SMT to go? The next next game to be this Fire Emblem thing, or do you want that washed away and you want an SMT5? What do you guys think?
I'm looking forward to the crossover. I mean, I think it's going to be a great one because Atlus does know how to make good games. We've seen that time and time again. And the guys in Intelligent Systems aren't fucking around with Fire Emblem. They want... Because, Fire Emblem Awakening is supposed to be their swan song. It was supposed to be their last game because Nintendo was just tired of Fire Emblem's poor sales. And they made a really amazing game, and it made millions. It sold over 1 million copies worldwide. The game is amazing. And so now they're able to make more Fire Emblem titles, and
Such
we
a
get
great
this
studio,
crossover.
too.
Yeah. So
Incest
now,
is a great studio. I think they're like
yeah, it
super
is.
unsung, but they are a great studio in this genre.
Honestly, I'd say
And
SMT Cross Fire Emblem is pretty much the Persona Q of mainline SMT. Like, it's
Yeah.
kind of just something fun and quirky to have on the side while we wait for the next stuff to come out.
Yeah.
But I really don't mind if this is the next SMT that we get, because we know it's going to be a good game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I cannot
positive.
wait to see Flynn get all them Fire Emblem waifus. Oh man.
Definitely.
NTRing everyone.
Yep. And then Show makes a cameo from P4A2, and he's all like, "Show your ride," and he gets all the waifus.
Oh my god.
Or,
With those sunglasses on? Yeah. So what do you guys want? What do you guys want to see in SMT5?
Oh my. We've talked
Better
about
production
this before.
value.
That, and also I think we really need to either revamp or move on from the Law versus Chaos. Maybe not move on, but we've talked about this before. There's only so much you can do with the same alignments, and I think Devil Survivor 2 did this really well. I can't give enough praise for that game. But even Nocturne kind of moved away from Law versus Chaos in order for the reasons. And honestly, after Strange Journey, SMT4, and then SMT1, SMT2, and just Devil Survivor 1 even, like, we've kind of hammered home the points with that, so we either need to start mixing it up a little bit with that or just find a different type of ideology conflict that we can focus on for SMT5.
Yeah, I totally agree. I got my fill in Strange Journey. Because it was just a straight up law chaos, neutral path. But there was they took a rather interesting take on it, kind of like how Nocturne did. I didn't feel that way in SMT4. I thought SMT4 was just so black and white. Boring.
SMT4's law chaos neutral was actually very, very weak. I mean, especially for a mainline game like Mainline, this is the fourth entry in the series, and the alignment system is this weak.
There was no ambiguity.
We waited 10 years for an alignment system this week. Come on, Atlus.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. SMT4, that was one of its crowning failures. And that's the underpinning of the entire game too. Is the alignment system, and they dropped it on so many levels. And we had talked about that in this podcast before. There was I think it might have been Rom Scout who was with us, and CJ Keats. Just so much frustration all around with how lame that system was. Ugh.
Anyways,
crowning failure of SMT4 was not the alignment system; it was the Tokyo world map.
That was really bad.
Yeah, have fun.
We should move on to questions now, though, because we still have a lot of them. We're coming up on the 2-hour mark. So, the first question, and this is for the Cathedral of Shadows folks. The first one is from EMT, and he asked, let's see. Could you explain the overall timeline from SMT1 leading up to Persona 4?
Oh my god.
Jesus Christ.
Okay, so you're asking the right person. The way I made my splash in the MegaTen community was actually from a timeline explanation video I did. And oh my god, I think I've researched enough on this topic that, like, I deserve an award of some sort. Like, it took hours to figure this all out. I'm going to try making this as spoiler-free as possible, but if you want the full explanation, look up Shin Megami Tensei Beginner's Guide, Part 4, Continuity and Timeline, and you'll find the video. But basically what happened is SMT 1 and 2 happen, and basically the apocalypse occurs. It's SMT, that's no spoiler. Life's pretty crappy, so someone decides to go back in time, and that kind of screws up the timeline from there. So we have a bunch of alternate universes going on. That's where the Rido games kind of kick in.
Oh, and also another thing, all of the SMT and Persona games, they take place in a multiverse called the Armada network.
Yes, that's very important to know.
Okay. I think that rings a bell. Isn't that related to Soul Hackers?
No, that's actually related to Nocturne.
Oh, okay.
That's not really a confirmed name, but like fans have kind of adopted it because that's...
Demifiend and Rido can move about the network.
Yeah, that's... Because of plot-related reasons, certain characters pop up in other continuities because they can just kind of float about. But basically, what it leads down to is Rido 2, there's kind of 3 separate continuities continuities that split off back into the mainline SMT 1 and 2. And then there's another one that leads into SMT If, which leads into Devil Summoner and Soul Hackers, and then Persona. Common misconception is Soul Hackers takes place in the future, which it actually doesn't. And I think some people at Atlus kind of forgot this too, because they marketed it over here for the 3DS version as kind of futuristic, but it actually just takes place in a very advanced city.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Devil Summoner, SMT If, and Persona 1 and 2 kind of all take place in this like awkward mid-90s, late 90s type situation. We're not sure which one takes place in what order, but then from there it leads into Persona 3 and 4. From there it gets a lot more convoluted, and people argue over where Nocturne takes place and where Strange Journey and 4 take place, and it's kind of a mess.
Okay. So they're gonna have to release like the complete compendium in like 20 years. That'll explain everything.
Definitely. Like it's,
there's one question I have, because I think I'd read this or heard this from somebody. I think it was that like the universe that like Persona 1 and 2 take place in is like a digital world or something that was created at the end of Soul Hackers, or like Soul Hackers is that or something.
I have no idea where they got that from.
There's one of the universes was created at the end of like Soul Hackers when the world was destroyed or something like that.
I think what you're referring to is actually at the end of a game called If, and I never played this. CJ Rokura is probably the guy to talk to about it, unless you know about it, Rasen. Shin Megami Tensei If. Supposedly the Persona spin-off is taking place in that world.
Yes, but what's weird is the split actually occurs before If, which is really odd. Like nothing in If, like the premise of If is actually, this is an alternate universe where SMT1 didn't happen. Like, that was kind of what they sold the game on. And then in Devil Summoner, of all places, we actually get some reasoning as to why. And basically it comes down to certain characters in SMT1 are either arrested or killed before they can do anything, like, evil. And then that kind of leads into Persona.
Interesting.
Like, it's kind of just background information. To be completely honest, the majority of people don't like play the games with this knowledge in mind, and you really don't need to. It's just kind of stuff that you can piece together after playing a lot of the games.
I just think it's cool. If Rydao and Demi-Fiend can move through the Amala network, then what does that make them?
I don't know, but they're definitely very powerful.
What is Rydao? What is he? He's human, right? Because that dude looks like like most Kaneko designs.
He's a regular guy.
Like a vampire. Okay.
He's an everyday
He's a regular guy that has a very nice portal system that he moves through. I'll say that.
Or that was really good, Rasen. Thank you, and Katsu. But how do you? Now we've got another one from Mark Mendoza. He says, "How do you feel about SMT4's art direction with their demons? Staying away from the traditional. Is this the way for them to distance themselves from Persona?
They're
straying away from traditional. Sorry."
Me and Katsu have talked about this a lot on the podcast. They're pretty bad. Well,
they're pretty terrible.
Some of them are okay. Like the new Omo Akane looks pretty cool. Not gonna lie,
he looks pretty badass.
But overall, like a lot of them look really bad. And let me just say, the final boss for the Law and Neutral route looks like an evil Chancellor combined with Slenderman, and that doesn't belong in SMT. I'm sorry.
No, it
doesn't. Like it's so weird.
His sprite's terrible too. He's like 400 by 300 pixels. He's awful looking.
Like, yeah, like we want Kaneko back for the next project, but
Kaneko, please come back.
I love Kaneko's or his designs for the personas and the demons. I mean, honest, I don't really like how he designs humans. I'm just gonna say it. I think Maya looks like Marilyn Manson.
He draws vampires. Just in the community thread the other day, one of the members posted the Kaneko art of Maya and then the Suijima art of Maya, and it's almost like night and day. Like the way Kaneko draws them, it's like they're really like elongated and pale with those eyes. They look like vampires.
The thing with Kaneko's art style is he places emphasis on the normality. I've seen this in an interview. He places emphasis on like the normality of like the main characters, and basically it's showing that they're just average people. And then he places all of like the creative stuff with the demons, And I think that's something really enjoyable because it kind of says, like, these are just normal people that happen to have these demonic powers, like, at their disposal, which is why you don't see a lot of Kaneko designed characters having, like, the blue spiky hair,
Right, that is true.
odd stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're supposed to be, like, just regular
Can you-
people that happen to come across.
Can you
demonics.
imagine Kaneko drawn Fire Emblem characters?
No, I really can't.
They should have Kaneko do the. I always thought it was Kaneko. Kaneko do the personas in the new game, and Soejima do the people. That's what I.
characters.
Because some of Soejima, we just bagged on how he looks. I think a lot of Soejima's personas are fucking awful. They look like Digimon.
Ooh, yeah. Like some of them are so amazing, and some of them are so terrible. Like
I always thought Yosuke's looked so stupid.
so
Oh,
bad.
he looks mad goofy. Yeah, he looks mad
Ninja
goofy.
Disco Frog, that's what they call him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Same with Teddy's. It's just like it looks like a Hypnotoad with like a nuke and a cape.
Oh
Like-
god, Akihiko's is pretty terrible. Like, I mean, not Caesar. The one
Caesar's
that he has,
Polydeuces.
the one that he has before the upgraded looks so bad. So bad.
I'd imagine.
Do you guys like the look of Kaguya in Golden? That's the one that you get for like maxing Marie's S-Link.
Yeah, it totally looks like a Persona 5. It's like in a higher resolution than all the other ones for some reason too, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But to be fair to both artists, I'd imagine coming up with designs for those, mythical creatures is very difficult. I mean,
That must be hell.
like
Going through all of those.
that must be. I mean, that's just gonna happen because some look incredible, but some look just like, ugh, this is fucking Digimon. But
So wait. So first of all, some of us appreciate the designs in Digimon. But yeah, so many layers in Photoshop. I'm sure. I can only imagine having to draw that stuff.
okay.
Digimon is awesome.
But no comment.
I bet.
Glorious Toast 18 asks, great name by the way. 2014 will be the year of Persona for Atlus. Do you think we will get any SMT announcements next year? Personally, I want Digital Devil Saga ports for the Vita. I would love that. I would love they ported all those PS2 games to Vita, but I know it'll never happen. But
Never.
SMT announcements? I don't know. Is there any...
Break Record's coming out in Japan, hopefully this fall, hopefully this summer. It keeps getting delayed. It was supposed to be this fall, then fall passed, then they said it's winter. Then recently they said it's summer. So aside from Devil Survivor 2 Break Record, the only other project we really need news for is Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem, which we literally got one interview blurb about, it'll probably be set in Tokyo, and then they've never talked about it again.
Set in Tokyo. And then there's this also, and Atlus also filed a trademark for this thing called Devilizer.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, recently they claimed the term Devilizer, and a lot of people are thinking that's. There's been rumors floating around a lot that the reason Kaneko didn't work on SMT4 in the first place was because he was working on a new spin-off series. And recently with the Devilizer news, people are thinking that might be what he's been working on this entire time.
But
that's exciting. Wow.
When are they going to launch SMT Imagine A Realm Reborn, though?
Hopefully never. Do
Never.
you guys know about SMT9, the failed MMO project they had?
No. Tell us.
Oh, this is probably one of Atlus's and Microsoft's greatest failures, both of them combined.
Wait,
So-
Microsoft was involved?
Yes, they were.
Oh, wow.
Microsoft commissioned Atlus to make a MMO for the original Xbox. I can't call it the Xbox One
Okay,
anymore.
I gotta Google this.
Yeah, SMT9. But basically, what happened is Microsoft is coming out with the Xbox, and they're thinking, we don't have a Japanese audience. We need to get Japanese developers to come out with something that will sell the Xbox in Japan. One of these companies is Atlus. So they say, hey, Atlus, make something. So they have this idea, well, your system has online. Let's have a MMO, and we could base it off of Shin Megami Tensei. So the original plan is to have this MMO called Shin Megami Tensei 9. And the reason it's called 9 isn't because it's the 9th installment, but it's because there's 9 different factions that you can side with. The game sells so poorly and everyone hates it to the point where they didn't even put up the online function of the game. So it's an offline MMO that's just really it flopped super hard.
That's weird because that sounds really similar to what happened to I think it was called True Fantasy Live or something. There was a
I don't even know what that is.
there was an
Oh,
MMO for there was a
Yeah.
MMO for the Xbox that had almost the exact same story. It just fell apart. I think that's what it's
Yeah.
called.
It was True Fantasy Live Online, and it was by Level 5, the guys that make Dragon, that make, well, they made a couple Dragon Quests and Dark Cloud and all that stuff, and it looked really pretty in, like, the pre-release footage, but it was going to be an Xbox game, and it was another one of those, let's try to win Japan initiatives on the part of Microsoft, and it was going to be an MMO, and it just never came out, period. It like, looked good, and then they ended up canceling it.
Microsoft, yeah, nothing's gonna ever sell the Xbox in Japan. Not even Idolmaster could do it.
No, it's
Yeah.
it's never gonna be a Japanese machine. It's always gonna have like really like super niche titles, which I guess they're cool with. I guess they're cool with having 1 million units over there. I don't know.
What are you
But,
talking
yeah.
about? Rise, Son of Rome, sold lots over there.
Oh,
Man,
such a good game.
that is the reason to get an Xbox One. I'll tell you that.
I would play Rise, Son of Rome.
Idolmaster.
You mean Rise, daughter of Tofu?
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. That,
What would the
Idolmaster
QTEs be for?
It would be for cutting up that Gamma-doki.
Gamma-doki, let me get some of that Gamma-doki.
But with the same animation, so it's like she's actually stabbing like an enemy soldier.
Oh yeah,
And then there's,
she's totally ripped too.
This-
Mention that, guys. Rise like
yeah.
so ripped, huge traps, huge abs.
Look at the textures on that tofu.
no, they could have a crossover, and this could be the triumph or return of Resident Evil 2's most famous character, Tofu.
Tofu.
Oh,
And then-
definitely.
Oh snap!
It could just be Rise fighting Tofus all throughout Rome for some reason.
So
Yeah.
basically, you're saying the game is co-developed by Crytek and Capcom, like Rise and Dead Rising 3, but then it's published by Microsoft, like both of those games also.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
Kaneko
There we
can
go.
design all the barbarians to look like vampires.
And all of
Perfect.
the
We can have-
tofu.
We can have alternate costumes. You can have your tofu worker costume, your idol costume, your school uniform. This is all in glorious like high resolution 900p.
Oh my god.
Okay.
Connect enabled, DRM.
Okay. Anyways, moving on. Let's see. Hollow Guardian asks, Cathedral of Shadows, what's your favorite MegaTen game, and do you like Persona?
Oh man, well I think we
hate
both
Persona.
answered the Persona
I hate all
question.
of you.
Yeah, you hate it.
I hate Persona. Yeah, I hate
There we go.
Persona.
You're either SMT or you're Persona. Did you see that
Yeah.
video in the
You can't
questions?
be.
Do you even
Yeah.
social novel? Bro?
I don't even, yeah. Like yeah, we're not allowed to talk. Like there's a fine chalk line between our hoods.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, did I ever tell you about the time I went over by the Persona 4 forums and I just drive by everyone? Social link reverse, motherfucker. Yeah. No, I think we both answered. We both started with Persona. Honestly, most SMT fans have started with Persona.
They just
Um,
don't want to admit it.
Yeah, because they have weird biases and they, like... It's so dumb. It's really
dumb.
is.
It really that's in any sort of fandom, or not even fandom, just like this could be even music too, where it's like
Yeah,
There's
music especially. Yeah.
yeah, music's the worst for it, but it's like this weird thing I see where like people want to use the things they like as a means to like define themselves. Like
Yeah.
the ultimate example
Yeah.
is like this band, I loved I don't know, Metallica, and you're a
They sold
teenager.
out.
Yeah, they sold out, and therefore, they're not good anymore.
Yeah.
Now I listen to Exodus and Atheist. But it's a very it's this very, because Persona is a lot more popular than a lot of the other SMT stuff, and there is a bit of that. I mean, obviously if you like one over the other, that's fine. That's a totally different thing. But there is like this whole, I don't know, it's like
A mentality.
it's just like
Fan-based civil war.
we're taught throughout our whole lives to choose a side, and for some reason people need to define these lines. I don't know why.
Yeah,
But-
it's a really weird brand of insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really strange.
What really bothers me is I keep trying. I've done a lot. Like I said, the main way I made my splash in the MegaTen community as a whole was just I made a series of videos called the SMT Beginner's Guide, basically telling people this is how you approach this very kind of awkward series to get into, because there's a lot of games and they're not easy. Like it's hard to get into, so I thought I need to help
Yeah,
out people with that.
They're antiquated and their gameplay is awful. So it's like, how do you get into
Like-
that? It's like SMT 1. And hey, and on the Persona side, it exists there too. Persona
Yeah.
1, that is a hard game to play.
Yeah.
Persona 1.
You mean
Oh my
hard,
God.
you mean hard, and isn't it's like not approachable, and it's not.
If you don't know what you're doing, you're not gonna have a fun time.
I just call that in P2 like SMT, high school flavor.
Yeah, like what I was saying though, like I've done a lot for like trying to get people into the series and just trying to get people to just be able to make that first jump into an SMT or Persona, whatever they want to play. And then like it's really hard for me to tell someone, yeah, I love these games because they're really mature and they give you a lot of food, like just stuff to think about. And then they go on Game FAQs or NeoGAF, wherever they go. Base. And they see this is garbage because it doesn't have social links, or this is garbage because it doesn't have Law versus Chaos, and it just makes everyone look like a 5-year-old. I hate it.
And then you see these
they
best
say
girlfriends.
It's a dating sim.
Yeah.
And for me, I kind of like, it'd be interesting to see in some sort of mirror universe where SMT and all of these franchises all exist, but they're all exactly the same thing. Like, because it's like. It's fine if you don't like Persona. It's fine if you don't like Devil Summon or whatever. It's like you can dislike things about them, but it's weird how like people don't like these franchises in that they're different from each other. It's like, wouldn't you want them to be different? Isn't that what's good about?
Exactly. It's like I don't know, like why does Persona need to be SMT and why does SMT need to be Persona or whichever one that we because there's one that we always hear, but it's like they're different series. They should differentiate themselves. Like you should want Persona to stay as far away from SMT as possible while still being under the same banner. You know what I mean?
Well, it doesn't have to be as far away as possible, but it can do enough to define itself.
It has to be its own thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
why I say as far as it can be while still like staying under the same banner. Like obviously they're still going to have the same, the things that you come to expect from an SMT while having their own identities.
Yeah, exactly. That's the way to put it. It's in every fandom. It's not just Persona and SMT.
Not by a long shot, yeah.
But it's very territorial and weird. I mean, even just in Persona, each game has its it's not really
fans.
Not even.
No. It's Persona 1 and 2 fans versus Persona 3 and 4 fans.
Yeah, it is.
But even there's even people that are dedicated to just one game where they're like, not so much Persona 1, but like there's people that love Persona 2 and they can't stand 3 and 4, and there's people that love 3 that they can't stand 4 and they can't stand 2, and so on and so forth. And
there's seen it all.
It's
I want to add on to this, like it's funny too because like all these it's funny because like the elitists on both sides seem to think like, oh, we're not like the Persona community, or oh, we're not like the SMT community, but then like it's really funny seeing like you could honestly copy paste some of the arguments and then like replace Persona 1 with Shin Megami Tensei 1 and replace Persona 4 with Shin Megami Tensei 4, and people have argued the same things. Like people argue like it's the same kind of arguing, but then they like try to like act like they're so much better than the other side, and it's pretty hilarious. Like it's same thing goes on in both communities.
I think it's mostly because it's like the majority of the fan base isn't that bad. I'm going to be honest, it's not. It's
no,
just
absolutely.
That the minority. It's just that the minority, the vocal minority, is extremely vocal. They're extremely loud, and they're extremely active on these forums.
Yeah, that's true.
I always say like I used to be a really big fan of Silent Hill, and that you want to talk vile communities, that one is literally toxic. Go to the Silent Hill Facebook page sometime and just look at the comments. It's the most they pissed me off so much. It's literally just people saying this series is dead, bring back Team Silent, these North American developers should die. I'm not even kidding. These comments are all over all the time, nonstop, and it's so hostile. It's the most disgusting fan base out there. I mean, I don't know about MOBAs. Maybe those are worse, but in a different way. But it's like I don't want Persona SMT to become like that. So like people that are always spilling this bile. It's like there's a point where it could devolve into like Silent Hill, and it's like, oh god, I'm out if that happens, because it's like that's the worst. It's done to the point where I don't want anything to do with Silent Hill at all anymore.
Yeah. I do think that like Katsu is right though, because if you really go out into the like ether as far as like what fans really are, because I think because it's it's really, people are so vocal, like he says, it's really easy to lose perspective as far as like what the majority of the fan base is thinking. Like we were just making the jokes about Rise, if it was a game about Risei, and that's for the people that missed it, Armada made this like Photoshop of like the Rise for Xbox One box art with Risei on it and like all these different brands of tofu, and he changed the title, and it was really funny. And I took that Armada, I took that job of yours and I put it on my Tumblr and I put tags all over it, and it almost has almost like 80 like revlogs at this point or whatever, like 80 notes, like likes or whatever. Like the fan base, most of them can take a joke. Like most of them, they are thrilled about all this new stuff. They're thrilled about Persona 5. They're thrilled about the dancing game. They're thrilled about Q. Like most of them are just happy to be playing Persona and just happy that more Persona is on the way. And I think a lot of times, yeah, that's how it should be. And I think if you spend enough time on like forums and stuff, it's really easy to lose sight of that and start thinking that like everybody is like, getting high and mighty or complaining about everything. And that's not it. Most of the people that are buying the games are just happy to play them.
Oh no, good. That goes with anything on the internet though. Like, I mean,
totally.
The PS4 would have a 50% failure rate if we went off Amazon's reviews,
Right.
Yeah.
It's a very antiquated view of the world. It's the vocal minority. Obviously, if someone, I mean, I guess this doesn't really apply to games, but generally, if someone's enjoying something, they're not going to go, like in the PS4's case, they're not going to go on Amazon and say, "And I really like this game or this system. It's working fine for me." No, totally. The point, the less than 1% that got a faulty system are going to be outraged, and rightfully so, that they got a faulty system are going there. It's like that with anything on the internet,
Yeah,
absolutely.
But that was a good question. Starside 3 asked, "Do you guys play Persona?" No. What do you think
we don't
of it?
roll with them.
Yeah.
What sucks.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think of it? How does it compare to MegaTen, and how do you think Atlus should move the franchise? Also, why should I play it? The easy way to answer this question, Starside, is just play what you're interested in. Read up on them.
Play what look good.
Yeah, listen to what we all said here. Play what looks good. Play what is in your interest. That goes for anything. Gbiv asks, in your opinion, what do you think about SMT4's and P4G's handling of difficulty level of dungeon crawling, especially how P4G makes you choose one difficulty level at the beginning of the game and stick with it, brackets, with a new, easier ending and easier mode, blah, 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 and SMT making you feel humiliated after dying twice before you're getting the option of an easy mode. What is your opinion on Persona's more generous difficulty curve compared to SMT4's on normal mode?
I think something that... I haven't played Golden, but something that I see a lot of people say about Golden is that they reduced the difficulty greatly, and I'm not sure if that's the direction Persona wants to take as a whole, but I guess if they're trying to go for a more story-based system, that makes sense. Whereas SMT4, they went pretty hardcore with all the abilities and making sure that every system, or like every type of skill system that you try to go for is viable. What's interesting with SMT4 though is that because of all that customability and stuff, it gets to a point where like the hardest part of the game is like the first 5 hours, and then after that you can pretty much blow through everything if you know what you're doing. And by know what you're doing, I mean you make a stat build that is like focuses on something.
I thought SMT4 was so easy. It was one of the easiest games I've played outside of the first, like you mentioned, first 5 hours. Medusa, right? Like the room right before Medusa, you do some grinding there. God, you're set.
Yeah.
So
that happens though. Like on any basically every RPG ever is based on math. So if it's based on math, then there is a most logical way to go about it. So and The Witcher 2 has this problem where it's like the first 3 hours I'm like, what the fuck? This is so hard, and then later on it's like this is a cakewalk. It's all to do with math and breaking it all down. So yeah. That would be my answer.
Yeah, I agree with you, Levito. And SMT it just takes longer. So when I hear, and even myself back when I was playing Nocturne, like, oh god, these games are so difficult compared to these ones. I don't think the actual game is more difficult. I think it just takes you longer to sort of min-max that math like you were talking about. But with that said, I will say that the SMT games always have great extra content and really good extra boss fights. So if there's people listening to this that are really into that, definitely go for those games. There's a lot more than the Persona games. I really wish that the Persona games had extra bosses outside of Margaret and whatnot that were more of a challenge and whatnot, like the SMT games do. That would be really cool.
But Persona 4...
The shame, like the bad thing is with SMT4, they relegated a lot of the additional bosses to DLC.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh God, that's something I wanted to bring up. Is that I hope that game is not an omen for future Atlus games because
I
that's
hope
Yeah, I
that-
really
that's
hope
same.
not.
that's
It sets
I
a
look
really
forward to
scary
buying plenty
precedent.
of DLC costumes in P5, including the swimsuit set. The squirrel. Well, I guess they'll already be schoolgirls, huh? So
okay.
I guess that wouldn't be a thing.
Costumes are not as bad as like bosses. That just sounds
Yeah.
awful.
To be
Yeah,
completely
pretty
honest,
much.
though, for the price, I'd say the pricing is okay. It's just the fact that it's DLC in the first place I have an issue with.
Well, of course.
Like,
Mhm.
it's not overpriced, but I mean, it should have been in the vanilla game, I feel.
Well, I
It
mean,
sets a really scary precedent within the franchise.
yeah. Just imagine it's like your social link with Yukiko is about to become more intimate. Now pay $2.99 if you want to upgrade this to the next rank.
Oh,
You
God,
can't
it
hang
sounds
out-
like-
you-
Oh,
Wait, is Forza 5 actually Persona 5?
You mean Forza 6? Oh no, wait, I'm thinking of Gran
Turismo.
Never
That's
mind.
Persona 6.
I fucked that up. But yeah, that's a lot of people are worried about microtransactions in a lot of next-gen games because almost every Xbox One game has microtransactions. And you know what my feelings are on microtransactions? When the game's free to play and they do it right, it's perfect. When it's a $60 game and you fill your game with microtransactions, go fuck yourself. It's pretty ridiculous.
Gran Turismo 6 has anti-microtransactions. They pay you.
Yeah, so many people are fucking up free to play and microtransactions. It's so silly.
Yep.
I mean, all I'm saying is Guild Wars 2 has got gigantic con patches every 2 weeks for completely for
Yep.
free. Are you really?
And let's be honest, it's not like you're going to be playing Destiny in the spring, so hey.
Yeah, exactly. That game's gonna be microtransactioned out the ass. But anyways, moving on from that, microtransactions suck if they're done right, they're fine. Like Dota 2 does it really well. Guild Wars.
yeah.
Atlas,
Guild Wars
please
does
don't
it well.
charge me $15 per waifu.
God.
I need them on the disc, Atlas. I need them on the disc. I want to see the
Oh,
receipts.
But anyways.
I want to see the receipts.
Anyways, Cool Mike asks, I'm a big Persona fan who's only played 3 and 4. What's a good starting point with SMT that won't scar me for life?
Devil Survivor 2.
Devil Survivor
Yeah.
2.
Well, here's the
Yeah.
thing too. I want to address the scar you for life thing. It's SMT. You're going in dry. Like
yeah,
there's
you're going
no
in
other way
dry.
to do it. You just got to scar yourself. But it's a good pain. You'll learn to love it.
DS2 takes care of you. It takes care of you. It's really good.
It
I
holds
wouldn't
your
go.
hand.
I wouldn't go in dry into something like Nocturne or or Strange Journey.
Let's see. Michael De Silva asks, how could SMT borrow from Persona and vice versa? And another question is, which of the games in each series were your favorite?
Oh man.
SMT
Okay.
can borrow Predator production value from Persona.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely
The budget.
better production. Definitely better production value. Definitely voice acting because some of those characters just fail to come to life. What was the other thing, Levito? You said something about gameplay or no? Which was our favorite?
Yeah.
Whatnot?
In each series,
Yeah,
in a respective series.
Strange Journey. It's fucking awesome. It's my absolute favorite in the SMT. Second to that would be Devil Survivor 2. Third to that would be Nocturne.
My favorite is Digital Devil Saga, both 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And for Persona, it'd have to be Persona 3 FES.
Interesting. What about you, Rasen?
For me, I'd say Devil Survivor 2 is definitely one of my favorite games of all time. It's one of the only RPGs I've played, or just games in general, where every character I enjoyed, at least to some extent. I didn't really hate anyone, which is interesting. But Persona, I'd say Persona 3, mainly because I haven't actually finished to completion any of the other ones, but so far I really like Persona 3. Persona 2's plot I've experienced through Let's Plays and whatnot, and I have to say I'm fascinated by what they pull off in that. But getting through that gameplay can be an issue. So when I go through that, it might be.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's a game I want to experience so badly because of the story, but oh man, I don't. Oh, the gameplay does not look good.
It's worth a try though, man. If you try it and play, because like I said, I've been saying the last couple episodes, I played for 6 hours of Persona 2, and I said the same things, as you guys basically. The characters and stuff seem like a total achievement, especially in the context of, hey, most of this was written in like 1999 or whatever. I'm almost floored. They're like immediately likable. Seem like there's a lot of depth to that, and I'm saying I'm being this complimentary after like 5 or 6 hours of like a 40-hour game or whatever. So that alone should be like testament. But that gameplay, man, I was out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the Persona 2 cast is a lot more fleshed out than the Persona 1 cast. I think the main problem with the Persona 1 cast is they're just pretty much SMT characters in high school uniforms.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're I don't see that much love for the first game. It
I
seems
don't
like
either.
it seems like there's not many people that like that game in general.
Yeah,
No, it's pretty bad.
definitely,
It's pretty terrible.
for favorite mainline, I'm pretty torn because like I love all of them, but I'd have to say SMT1, mainly just because it set everything and just like it's so simple and basic, yet they do so much. They did so much stuff that set the template for what they do ahead that I just love it. I mean, the gameplay is it's hard to get through. Like it's hard. It's definitely hard. But I'm actually on my third playthrough of SMT1 just because I want to get every single side of the story and experience it firsthand. And I just love the evolution they've pulled through that. SMT4 definitely, like you can see they're taking a lot from SMT1 and 2. One thing interesting, I think, is that I think Persona 5 might have an issue similar to SMT4 in that I think SMT4's one of the biggest issues within the fan base was that the games before it were so great that it could never possibly live up to the full expectation.
Oh yes.
And
Oh,
I
yes.
think Persona 5 is going to be very similar to SMT4 in that regard because there's no way in hell that a lot of the more like rabid parts of the fan base are going to get what they fully expect. So
No, of course not.
Yeah, when we first started doing this podcast, the thing that me and Levito used to talk about a lot was how like a big game would come out and then there'd be like good reviews for it and everybody would say it's great and the impressions would be great or whatever, and the cynical people on the internet would always be themselves from day one because that's how they are. But then like it always like about 2 weeks later it would pop up in the press and on the forums everywhere. Everybody would say, oh, this game's terrible, it's not actually that great, it's actually terrible, and we all change our minds. I know me and Levito both don't feel too hot about BioShock Infinite in retrospect.
Not at all.
And we were really high on it at the start though, but now it's the end of the year and it's not even in my top 10.
I think it's kind of there's a lot of contrarians these days, for sure.
Totally.
As for whether that relates to what'll happen in Persona 5, I mean, there's going to be a bunch of people that are just like, go ahead. This happens a lot with MMOs. Whenever a new MMO comes out, a lot of the time, like Guild Wars 2 or Final Fantasy 14, they can be really good games. But people are looking for that very first time they logged into World of Warcraft, the very first feeling they got. They want that
Exactly.
feeling again, and they're not going to get it.
They're not going to get that again, and I do think, like you're saying, like I think from the jump, and I honestly expect it to start like as soon as they start showing media. It's going to be like, oh, this cast doesn't look as cool as like the previous Persona cast or whatever. For me, I have already made for me, Persona 4 is like my second favorite game of all time. I have already made peace with the fact that 5 will not be as good as 4.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I've already made peace with that. This is completely separate. It could be a phenomenal game, but I already know it's not going to take a place in my heart the way 4 has. I just don't.
right.
I just can't imagine a reality where that happens. So I've made peace with that. I made peace with that ages ago. I made peace with that after I finished Persona 4 because it's like one of those things you should already know and like prepare yourself for it. You know what I mean?
People
Like
are more accepting.
yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Just avoid misconception altogether,
Yeah.
People want that feeling again. That happens all the time in life.
They
And I
do,
know
yeah.
Atlus is going to try their damnedest to bring that feeling back, but they're going to try, but it's probably not going to work.
it's almost
Maybe.
impossible.
Well,
That's what I was kind of trying to bring with that is that it's almost a thing that I hear this a lot. It's the first game of the side series or spin-off you play, a lot of people seem to attach to.
Mhm.
Totally.
Definitely, I think for 75% of people, that's the truth. I know for a fact that there's a lot of things about the gameplay of Devil Survivor 1 I have an odd bias against simply because I played 2 first. There's a lot of things in both Nocturne and SMT4 that I think kind of betray some of the aspects that SMT1 introduced, and I really liked because I played through that one first. It's kind of odd because with SMT specifically, it just seems like it's whatever one you experience first kind of makes your feelings of the subject. Yeah.
Expectations of the franchise.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm the total opposite, because like a lot of the ones that I played first I didn't like, and then when I went to play the other ones I ended up liking, both with SMT and Persona. So
that happens a lot though. Sometimes, like if you're not in the mood for it, like I recently played a game called Papers, Please on. And I voiced that I really was not having a good time on Twitter, and a bunch of people were like, how can you not like this? And I'm like, I don't know.
Social commentary. Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's so deep. But it's like, I don't know. I just
How deep? Hashtag so deep.
I just wasn't feeling it at the time. Like, it could. I don't even think it's a bad game. It's just like, I don't know. Again, I don't even know what I'm getting at here.
You're not in the mood.
It's too deep for you. No.
I have played games before that I was not hot on, but I came back to them and I liked them. I did that with Metal Gear Solid 4. I did that with Final Fantasy X. I bought a used copy of Final Fantasy X years ago, and I played like 40 minutes of it, and I just wasn't into it, and I put it down for like months, and then one day I came back to it, and all of a sudden I was feeling it. I can't even explain it, and now I love the game to death. So it's totally a mood thing, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Funny story with Persona 4, and Levito, I know you know this. I was like that with Persona 4, but in a matter of hours. Okay, so I was going through like a life crisis or whatnot when I was playing that game, and when I first started playing it, I hated it. I was like, this is the worst game. This is the worst RPG I've ever played. It's so boring. It drags on forever. Finally, after like an hour and a half, I'm in combat, and it's awful. And you got this Teddy guy, and he's annoying, and I absolutely hated it. And I like paused the game and did something. And I was like, man, I'm never playing that game again. That's shit. That game is terrible. And then I went back into the office that I was playing it in. I went back in there. And I picked it up and I was like, okay, whatever. And you're like fighting Yosuke's boss, which looks so stupid. And then I don't know, it was something like after I defeated the boss, the little bit of exposition and dialogue that Yosuke had, and I was like, this is cool. I'm gonna play this. That's how it was for me, because I played Persona 2 before any of them, and I absolutely loved it. And I was playing Persona 4, and I was like, this is nothing like 2.
Yeah. Oh yeah, well that happens a lot too. I mean, specifically with Persona, there's a lot of people that I mean, not a lot, but there were people that played the first 2 games, and then they played 3, and they were like, oh, this isn't at all what I liked. I mean, that happens with.
That's especially going to happen with Persona 5. There's going to be a lot of it this time around.
Yeah. Expect a whole lot of too anime, too many waifus. Atlus, somebody needs to put a leash. Hashino is ruining the series. Soichima's a pervert, and I'm done with the series. It's garbage.
People are already saying that about Persona Q. I see that a lot. It's like, this is too Japanese, and it's like, really? This is where you draw the line?
You know what it is? It's like, what does that even mean? What does too Japanese mean? What does too anime mean?
I'll tell you what it means. Pulling out corn dogs out of nowhere. Ow! I got my corn dog. You guys like corn dogs and donuts and ice cream? I want a donut and ice cream and the donut with the corn dog. Yeah.
There was someone on Twitter, JP Kellums from Platinum Games, was saying on Twitter, when the Persona reveal was happening, and 5 hadn't quite. It was at the point where everyone was in dismal despair. And he said, like, I think it's rather strange that people want Japanese games to not appeal to the market that they're from. It's kind of true though. It's just like
it's totally true.
I mean. And again, yeah, like what is I always hate that when people say it's too anime or something. It's like, that's not a critique. That means nothing.
It's like what does that even mean? Anime is a medium. It's like me saying, "Oh, it's too crime thriller." What does that mean?
See, that's what I hate about IGN reviews. They did a review for a game called Atelier Totori, and one of their negatives was that the main cast was too cute.
It's like, what? Well, what?
I mean,
I don't understand IGN. What's that mean?
The anime one always bothers me because it was like, so is it like K-On! Or is it like Ghost in the Shell? Can you explain to me what you mean?
It's like, are we talking about Cowboy Bebop here, or are we talking about Ichi Gundam, or are we talking about like Golden Time?
Yeah.
Like get specific here.
I mean,
Well,
I know what they're saying. They're talking about certain tropes and whatnot, but it still is a shitty argument, and it makes no sense.
There's
It's
a lot
bad
of
argument,
like.
and then it's kind of ironic to me also because like the thing that I felt when I was going through like Persona 4 in particular, I felt like, man, if this was an anime, this would potentially be like the strongest like 2-season anime I had seen in probably a decade.
And then
You know what I
got the
mean? Like
animation.
and instead I got the animation. and
Aw.
and instead I'm playing it as a game. It's like if the game verbatim was turned into an anime, it'd be a fantastic anime. So for me it's even a more jarring because it's like a subtle like jab or insult. It's like even if it was anime though, it'd be fantastic
That's a good point.
because most anime isn't written anywhere near as well as Persona is written. Almost no anime is written as well. Any of the games, 1, 2, 3, or 4, none of the games is like most anime is absolutely not at this level. So we'd be lucky.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree
Another
with that,
issue.
but
Another issue I see is like when people say it's too anime or it's too Japanese, it's like that's a little racist. Like it's kind of a cultural fear type thing going on there that I think a lot of people need to get over.
And these are, and this is coming from
Yeah.
the very same people who go on and on about how much they love Rise and how much they love Yukiko and like Yukiko's the best girl and all that.
like where do you draw the line? Yeah, it's like
Yeah,
what
totally.
what does that mean? Like there's no difference really. It's just a different style. It's
no, it definitely is these strange cultural borders that people put in that are actually they're a bit prejudiced as much as people wouldn't want to admit that.
Well, wait, I
For
gotta
clarity,
ask you.
before people send us emails, I don't mean to suggest that all anime is terrible. Most of any medium is poorly written. That applies to games and films and everything else.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Good call, yeah. Hey, I got a question for you guys about Persona 4 Golden. So, okay, speaking of all this anime, this Japanese stuff, I don't really understand it very well, so maybe you guys can help me out here. Okay, in Persona 4 Golden, there was a scene that is not in any of the other versions of the game. And I'm talking about when Yosuke, his dad, gets in trouble, or we could say trouble, because you have to start a ska band and play a show. And I remember people flipping out over this, like, oh, this is the worst. This is the most lame, stupid thing I've ever seen. It's so bad. It's so cringeworthy. It's so horrible. It's so fan service. It's so anime. It's such bullshit. I want to know what you guys think about that. I want to know what you think about that. See, I mean, there's other ones in the game.
I think that I don't
But I
like
want to
how
know what
you're
you think
injecting-
about that. Yeah.
I don't like how you're injecting your fan fiction into this discussion. At no point is it stated that it's a ska band. That is not canon. That's not on the Persona wiki. You don't.
Dude, did you see those instruments they had? Yukiko
Don't pull
playing the
stuff off your
saxophone.
Tumblr and put it in this podcast. No, I'm kidding.
Yukiko, man, she was real sexy.
She
God.
was
Playing that saxophone.
Kanji,
gave me-
best.
She gave me a tromboner.
oh god, oh god, yeah.
Greatest podcast.
Kanji was
drums, but he had to beat it.
Kanji
Yeah.
was terrible at drums. He couldn't do a blast beat. He couldn't hold rhythm. He was awful.
Oh, it was Kanji that was on drums. Oh shit, I
yes.
already forgot.
Now your joke is ruined. How about that? Oh, that's so
Oh,
terrible.
what a shame.
Man, it's like, but did you guys not mind that?
I just thought it was an excuse to put another song in, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of stupid, but I really don't let things like that bother me. It's like,
Yeah, it's like
I was just
I
like-
don't know,
I
guys.
felt that it fit with Persona 4. Now, if it was like Persona 3, no, I don't.
well,
think
it's like 10 minutes too. Like it doesn't affect the other parts of the plot in any way or like intrude really.
this is
Man,
something
I make that argument all the time.
people talk about tone a lot, and there's all because like a lot of people say, oh, Persona 4 is really
It's
lighthearted.
really lighthearted.
And it is, but there's obviously some dark stuff in it. I mean, there's people, high school students getting murdered. There's suggested rape,
Yeah.
like very heavily implied.
Mhm.
And
There's a lot of creepy stuff in it. Go ahead.
there's this one guy on my forums who wanted Persona 5 to be like the most edgiest game. He wanted the protagonist to like kill himself and all this stuff.
yes,
the
yes,
entire the entire slave motif.
Sounds
He
good.
Just wanted,
This
he just
hap-
wanted straight up edge.
This happens a lot with people saying, like there's a lot of people, something that's going on in the community a lot right now is college. They're all
Oh God.
Oh my god, yeah, that's
I was trolling some threads. I was straight up trolling some threads.
Oh my god.
With
There's the
saying
there's the
how sure college was, and I remember I told a story about one of my college experiences, and like people are like, "Dude, go watch the fucking American Pie movies. Like, are you serious? Like, do you really think that college is this place where only like grimdark stuff happens?"
but
Yeah.
here's the thing though. American college, English speaking countries colleges, like the Western world college, is nothing like Japan college. High school in America is nothing like high school in Japan.
Yeah.
High school in Japan is one of the most hardest, most difficult experiences you can ever have in learning
Well,
institution. Like
high school.
high school in Japan is high school in Japan is nothing like how they portray it in anime and games. It is nothing like that.
No.
Students there can get really depressed. They commit suicide a lot.
Yeah.
Like the highest suicide rates in Japan come from high school kids. It is very
That's what Persona 3 was about in large part, right? The suicide rate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and I've mentioned this in the podcast before. One of the things is that in Japan, high school is not mandatory. So after you graduate from junior high school, you can go right into like the workforce or vocational school.
Yeah.
But a lot of
High
people
school's
try
pretty much
to
like
get.
college.
Yeah, it is. It's the first, I've called it before, the first adult frontier, because it is very much like college. You know, you
have
have
to be accepted.
apply. Yeah, you
Yeah.
get accepted. Chances are, I mean, Japan has a huge middle class, so a lot of those kids are working part-time jobs at the same time they're going to school. So their social life, their love life, all that stuff becomes very limited but very intense, and there's a lot of stress and whatnot going on. So yeah, high school over there is a lot different, and it is very similar to college over here. So I guess that, you know, like Libido, like you said, the people that are like, oh, college, or whatnot. I guess, you know, it's very similar to the Japanese audience that would be like, oh, I hope it's high school. I hope it's high school.
No, Armada, are you telling me that these games made in Japan are about Japanese culture aren't appealing? They're not trying as hard as they can to American audiences?
Oh my gosh, I know.
Yes.
Yeah, I know.
God.
Fuck college and university. I want a Persona game set entirely in trade school. I want to learn.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like it's
We
so
got a
fun.
nurse. We got a contractor.
It makes
We got a guy. Okay,
We got
so
a chef.
basically, so he's a cashier, right? But he prefers to be referred to as a liquor store proprietor.
I mean,
Right.
but
Oh.
I like where you're going with this.
A garbage man who is a sanitary engineer.
wait, I gotta make this
Exactly.
This-
Sanitary engineer.
this
Yes.
point that I was gonna bring up earlier is whenever someone brings up the whole grimdark argument, that all throughout, I can't remember who said this quote, but I always think it's strange when people want things to be really, really grimdark. Like there's this disconnect that like if there's any humor at all, then the subject matter, the darker stuff is like undermined, and like in some cases it is. It depends how it's done, but like
Yeah.
again, to bring back Silent Hill again, that a lot of people don't like Silent Hill 3 because it's really dark, it's really oppressive, nonstop, it never lets up, and it actually numbs you to the rest of the experience. It kind of kills itself. Some people had that problem with the first Amnesia, and like I can't remember who said this, but it's like all throughout history, there's been humor, there's been laughing, even in the worst of times, no matter what situation you are, because that's just in human nature to try and not make light of the situation, but try and make it not seem so dire. Because sometimes when something really awful is happening in a story, or when something awful is about to happen, it can have more impact if it's not. Because if Persona 5 is like fucking The Wire the whole time, and not even The Wire's not even a good example. I don't know what's a good example. If it's like super grimdark all the time, everyone's crying nonstop, then because they're in college, for some reason, mature dark people go to college. Really, but
Definitely. Me and Katsu cry all the time.
yeah, but it would compound, it would go against it, because like 70 hours of like grimdark, like really, that would get old.
And it also
I had
also
an
says
issue.
something about
Oh no,
it
go ahead.
also says something. It also says something about the people who are requesting for all these grimdark like moments in these games. It's
Yeah,
like,
it does.
those people have had grimdark, bad things happen to them in their lives, and they want to relate to fictional characters who've gone through similar experiences and things like that, because it will make them feel for them more so than having them like pal around with friends and all that stuff.
I think a big part of it
I don't
too
mean to
is
offend, but every time I see that suggestion, it's like it does kind of make you wonder what exactly has happened in your life to be like
Yeah.
Yeah.
bent on having like no light whatsoever in this
Well,
experience. Like, what have you gone through?
Well, I've got to bring up Breaking Bad too much, but I can't help it. It's like
No, you don't. It's a great example.
in the very last episode of Breaking Bad, there's humor. And things, I'm not going to spoil it, but it's pretty fucking dire at that point in the series. And it's like there's humor there even. It's like you can't, where's this idea that everything has to be really ultra serious all the time? Because people aren't like that. People aren't
exactly
aren't Commander Data from Star Trek, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
I like how you noted that it's like a 70-hour experience because if you're still looking for an example, I told you guys when we did the Games of the Generation episode, I really like The Last of Us, and I think it's a phenomenal game. It's a total achievement. It's like I think it took me like somewhere around like 20 hours long, and it's just such a wholly oppressive experience. It just bummed me out, and it's just like it's never going to be one of those games where I consider it to be one of my favorite games because it is just so dark and oppressive, and I can't take only that. I need a little bit more than that, just for me personally.
I actually thought they did enough to subvert that just enough in that game, but yeah, I can see that. It's yeah, I don't know why people are equating something being quote unquote dark to being mature or well written.
I think that's what I was about to say is I think a lot of it comes from adolescence, and I see this a lot with like kids and like teenagers and stuff like that. They seem to think that the only way to have something mature is if you have something that's dark and violent, and that's not the case.
I mean, there's I can't remember what it's called, but there's an Uwe Boll movie that's all about like about oh god, it's about a murderer, and it's really dark. It's like, do you think that's good? Honestly, dark does not equal good. It's like it's in tone. It's so silly, but the college thing especially. I don't know because I actually saw someone on Twitter the other day say, "Man, it's like I really want them to do away with the high school melodrama, and college would fix that." And they were being unironic.
What?
It's like what?
It's worse in college. Personally, from my
college.
experience, as someone who's in college, the drama, everything is a lot like stupider in college because like people are free and on their own, and they have no parents to tell them to like shut up. Like, oh
That
my
is
god,
like
I hate it.
How crazy is that? Because I'm not going to a traditional college, but I have a sister who goes to a California college out here, and she's always like she calls my mom a lot. Man, they have so much more drama at college than they do in high school. It was never like this for me or her, and now it's like nonstop complaints about like the most inane stuff. Like, it's unbelievable.
Okay.
Like,
And I think that, you know what, when it all comes down to it, this is a Japanese game and it's taking place in a Japanese high school, and people should just be grateful that they can vicariously live that life through these video games, that they can experience another culture or whatnot. I just get really bothered with like the weird like the lack of appreciation for video games when we should be like celebrating the medium.
Yeah,
in all ways, but like instead you just have people like just like moaning and complaining about it, and it's so, I don't know, it's just really weird. Whatever.
I think people are just not very cognizant, or they forget that these games are made in Japan, and
that too. Yeah.
There's a lot of I mean, even our third episode when we talked about some of the how some Persona 4 treats some of its minority characters not particularly well. A lot of that, people have argued, it comes down to culture, and it's something to be cognizant of, and it's kind of a weird way, not a weird way. It's an interesting window into a place that's much different from your own, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Even as much as we may disagree when people try to use it as like a loophole to the argument, but hey, that's a separate topic.
Okay, we're almost coming up on the 3-hour mark, so there's a couple more questions. So, because people took the time to ask, so we're going to answer them.
Okay.
Oh,
We have email questions too, by the way.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah, there's 4.
Maybe we should just wrap it up then, because Armada says he has to go.
Okay.
All right. Sorry to everyone that we're not going to be able to get to everyone's questions because we've gone on for a really long time. So yeah, this is the longest one we've ever done by far. But it was a lot of fun.
Same.
We will link up again, I'm sure.
But anyways, with that, Armada, who are you and how do people follow you on the internets?
You guys can find me on Twitter at @FollowArmada. I really love the band scene in Persona 4 Golden. I'd love to do some Photoshop of it. That was a great ska band. I love ska music. So.
Photoshopping the guys from what is that band? Smash Mouth. There you go.
And
Oh, that's the band that... No, there's so many other good ones, you know.
God.
Like Cannibal
Ska-
Corpse.
Yeah, they're definitely ska. Inorgo, where can people follow you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Tailspun, where I tweet about inane things the same way I talked about some inane things on this podcast while complaining about people who complain about inane things and just kind of ramble on and on and on and on and on. You can find me there. I apologize in advance.
And Katsu?
You can follow me on Twitter at Kazuragi. I usually tweet about my waifu and tweet about anime stuff and fighting games, especially Persona 4 Suplex Hold. I'm maining Junpei in that game. You guys can't hold me. Let's do this.
Well, that sounds wonderful. But Rasen, how about yourself?
You can find me at Rasen Reviews on Twitter. I don't talk about much that's interesting, honestly. I just talk about little interesting things in life. But I have a YouTube channel, which is actually where Cathedral of Shadows is hosted because we're poor college kids who can't afford anything, which also means we're dark and gritty, by the way.
Yeah, we're dark.
We cry mid-recording all the time. No.
Yeah.
You can find my YouTube channel. It's Rasen Reviews, one word.
All right, perfect. And everyone should go check out their podcast. If you listen to S-Link and you want to hear more just about SMT in general, you should go check out their show. It's good stuff. You can follow me on Twitter at Levito, at LEVIT0. You can follow the podcast at SLinkFM on Twitter for show updates and whatnot. If you don't want to hear me complain about stupid things, you can just go on there. Just a little announcement. I think I mentioned this last episode, but we're doing an episode almost every weekend this month, and next episode we're going to be focusing on Suplex Hold, and we're having Dacid Bro coming back, and Lord Knight will be coming on, so that should be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That should be that'll be great. But with all that, I believe we've all said our piece, so everyone say bye.
See you in the Velvet Room.
Bye!
I'll see you in the Cathedral of Shadows. Yeah.
Okay, so we're back for a little
Addendum?
A little addendum at the end because we didn't get to answer everyone's question, and Armada, the fine gentleman, had to go. So we're going to go to Twitter questions because I forgot about them. Let's see here. And you also have email questions, right, Rasen?
Oh, definitely. Yes, definitely. We have 4 of them.
Okay, let's run through these quick Twitter questions. Okay, Crazy Tank wants to know who is best Megami Tensei waifu.
Namisa from Soul Hackers.
Ooh, I like her.
Oh yeah.
Yes, she's very fun. She's someone I could like chill out with and just like go catch a movie or like go drinking with in real life and just have a good time and chat.
Yeah.
She definitely has a very fleshed out personality and she's very funny. Honestly, that character kind of makes Soul Hackers, in my opinion, worth playing.
Isn't she voiced by Laura Bailey in the new version on the 3DS or whatever?
I think so. That sounds right.
Yeah, she is.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally hang out with her without having to have sex with her for the sake of procreation.
Wow, there's a quote.
Because it really is a good quote.
But
that's actually a reference to something we said before. We have a long history with a Tumblr called Dirty SMT Confessions, but let's not get into that.
Yeah.
Oh god, it was just the greatest podcast.
Yeah, it was really good. Hold on. Michael D wants to chime in and say, it's Isabeau. Isabeau's
she's great, but she's not up to my waifu standards. To be completely honest, I feel alone in the fact that I've never been attracted to any fictional characters. I think I'm the minority there by a large margin.
It can happen.
Yeah.
Oh man, you should totally get attracted to a fictional character. Magic happens when you do.
It's gonna work out, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely going to work out. Anyways, Andre Silva asks, what's your opinion on Atlus USA using the SMT branding to market Persona games and their recent departure from it? God, sometimes people are shit at wording their questions. What's your opinion on Atlus USA using the SMT branding to market Persona games and their recent departure from it with P4G and P4A? I think it's plainly a marketing thing, honestly.
Yeah.
It was a smart idea.
It was to make the brand stronger.
Yeah, I think it's also just trying to not. Maybe they weren't trying to dilute their own brand too. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you guys know about this, but originally when Persona came over, it was called Revelations Persona. They didn't even try having Shin Megami Tensei. They tried making the series called Revelations in the West. They also had Revelations the Demon Slayer for Game Boy. So honestly, I think that's it. They were trying to create an identity because you could see, this is Persona, but I've never really played anything like it. This is Shin Megami Tensei Persona. I played Digital Devil Saga or I played Nocturne, whatever. I know this is from the same series, so it's going to be similar. So I think that's honestly why they did it, because it was very small over here when they brought it over. And to be completely honest, like there's no way back in the 90s for them to compete with something like Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest.
Yeah, exactly. And John asks, never mind. John asks, who's better, Goku or Jack Frost or Ken Sumorgi or Katsu or Morgan Freeman or Oregon Trick or Aladdin?
John.
I'm obviously better.
Yeah, John was a great Let's Player friend of mine who joined us for episode 4. Thanks, John. I'm gonna have to go with a combination of Goku and Katsu, like if they fuse together to create like a Gokatsu or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
There we go. I would go with that.
Get to do the fusion dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, Buddha, our good friend from NeoGaf, asks, what is the worst MegaTen game you played, and why is it Persona 3? So what's the worst MegaTen game you played?
Persona 1, in my opinion. I can't stand it. I can't stand the characters. I can't stand the gameplay. Like, there's no reason for me to continue playing that. I feel like I'm gonna get through it at one point just so I can review it and finally say I did. But it's going to be a struggle, I can tell, because I just don't care for anyone in that game. And that's what Persona kind of is for me, is the great characters. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird how that game really doesn't have very much love, but it seems like there's a reason for that.
There's a very good reason why Persona 1 is pretty disliked. A word.
Lollipop Dave asks, do you think we'll ever see a lot more prominent role of demons in the Persona series, and will the DSP ever appear again since If?
The DSP? What's
Demon
that?
Summoning Program. I think that's what they mean. I really doubt it. They kind of abandoned demons in the Persona continuity so far ever since 2.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I have a fan theory about.
They kind of got rid of demons after Eternal Punishment. Yeah, they got rid of demons after Eternal Punishment.
Yeah, I have a fan theory that's very convoluted as to why, but I don't want to get into it here because it's long-winded. But I think they're just going to go all Shadows and all Personas not from now on.
Yeah, exactly. It's what was your theory though?
Oh man, okay, so this long story short, all the other continuities have a law versus chaos type of disagreement going on in the universe. And believe it or not, demons are actually stated in a lot of the SMT games just to be personifications of human emotion. Does that sound similar to you guys? Yes. Shadows, Personas?
Right.
So my theory is that demons are personification of human emotion that are fueled by the law versus chaos disagreement, whereas Shadows and Personas are personifications of human emotions without the law versus chaos disagreement. That's basically
that makes sense.
Main point of it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I get that.
There's a little more balance in the Persona universe than there is in the other universes. It's not in as much disarray.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Panhime asks, do you think removing demons from the Persona series was a good move?
I would say, honestly, we kind of talked about this before, just all the series trying to get their own personal identity going. And I think Shadows kind of fill that role better because whereas SMT is a lot more external, Persona is a lot more internal, and Shadows kind of reflect that. All the Shadows are like basically someone's greed or someone's anger or something in one being, whereas I think what demons are supposed to represent is the more external feelings of humanity. So I think thematically it works.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say though, I wouldn't really mind if demons were to show up in P5.
Wow.
That's for you, Pan.
Okay.
Yes, show puns are the worst. So, what questions what do the Cathedral of Shadows listeners have for us?
Oh my. Okay, well, the first one we should probably
address. Did any of the demons email us?
Yeah, that's what I was about to get into. We have demon role players that like we have people that pretend to be Mastema or Frostace or Yamato Takeru, and they email us under their role-playing guises. So we have Samael saying, "So I heard you wanted an email from me. How thoughtful of you." Anyway, I was wondering what social links you felt were forced and which social links you think had untapped potential. P.S. Warn S-Link FM about the law alignment, their dickishness, and Mastema.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So, we have to
dickishness?
No, the law alignment's
okay, I was like, whoa!
No.
Who you fronting, son? Anyways, go ahead. It's just funny.
Yeah, he was warning us about the Angels of Doom coming in to kill us. No, yeah, what social links had untapped potential and which ones were forced? Forced, I think we kind of got into this Kenji in Persona 3.
I agree with that.
Untapped potential, I don't really know. That's tough.
Untapped potential. I can't really think of anything off the top of my head.
I think it's pretty much like the male characters, like the male social links in Persona 4, because what I wanted for Persona 4 Golden was a female protagonist, and if they made a female protagonist, they could have gone the route with like P3P and like had completely redone like the male social links and expanded more on their character a bit. And that was something that I really wanted to happen, but sadly it didn't. So that's my answer.
I think I thought of one. I think it's Naoto with Persona 4, because like a lot of people from the trans community have very strong opinions about that character one way or another, and it's very misconstrued, and there's a lot of awkwardness to that social link, and not in a good way. And
there is, yeah.
I think that one could have been a lot better. It's just, again, that some of it's Japanese culture rubbing off that you're not going to recognize unless you're familiar with it. Other parts of it are just like, oh, this is kind of shitty messaging. But that would be the one I would pick.
I'd probably pick the same one. I do think kanji, for similar reasons, I think kanji's S-Link can be a little disappointing. But for the most part, though, I do actually consider an achievement, and I think the way that the character has resonated because of who he is and what he struggles with, I think they definitely achieve more than they let down. But yeah, definitely Naoto is. I think for a lot of people, they just Atlas sort of fails to sort of take a real stance there, and that just
Yeah.
disappoints some people. Whether those people are in the right or not, they just the point of what the question is they were let down, and I do put myself in that group, despite still really liking the character and the fact that the character is there. Because I mean, just the fact that Naoto was a character is totally progress. Like it is totally progress of some kind. But yeah, I'd probably pick her. Every other S-Link I think is pretty much pretty good. I'd say the one that hasn't, and there's a couple I haven't done, but I've done most of them, barring like two. I think like the old lady, I think Hanako and Naoki, or Naoki, however you say his name, those two. But I think the only one that maybe didn't really have like a lasting effect on me was the one with the kid that you tutor.
Oh,
I
him?
think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that one might have been sort of lame duck, only like it because it was in comparison to the others, which I felt a lot of the others were pretty poignant. But even that one I think is pretty good. So same answer as Levito, basically.
Yeah.
Mm.
All
So,
right,
go ahead.
I was gonna say thank you, Samael, for emailing us. Did you have more to add, or?
No.
Okay. Yeah, moving along. Oh, also, Samael, you should edit the COS wiki more. You haven't been doing that in like 6 days, and we're disappointed. We have our own we have our own fan wiki for some reason. There's a page called Rasen Screwed Up, and it's just a list of things I've done wrong. It's pretty great. You guys should check it out.
We have our own little segment on TV tropes.
we
don't have a page. It's just a little footnote saying that we exist.
Basically, if we tell our fans to do something, they'll like take it uber seriously and actually do it, which is glorious. This one's from Dominic, and it just says Shin Megami Tensei 4 in Europe, frowny face.
Sorry, Europe.
Yeah, like it's kind of shitty with how long that's taken, especially because like the North American release of SMT4 compared to like the Japanese release was like so little. I think it was like 2 months. It was ridiculously fast.
Yeah, the localization went quick. Like when I first saw it in like the Atlus Faithful newsletter, I freaked out.
I thought it was a typo.
Yeah.
I literally thought they meant 2014 because I was like, really, like couple months, really? And then Europe for some, I guess it's because Atlus kind of lacks that European branch. But yeah, it's pushed back to sometime in 2014. Like it's kind of a shame.
Wow.
It's a crying shame.
It is, yeah. Atlus kind of likes to screw over the Europeans.
Yeah.
Not that they did that with Arena, not at all.
Oh no, definitely not. Have fun staying competitively viable in that game, Europeans, because you're a couple years behind, which is a shame.
Basically, yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Thank you, Dominic. This one's from Brooke, who runs Dirty SMT Confessions, as we talked about before. Definitely a very unique Tumblr, and you'll never look at the fan base the same way again after you go on it. I know I don't. Oh wow, there's 5 questions here. Let's skim through these. Many people have wanted more mainline SMT elements put into the Persona series. Do you think if mainline elements were put into Persona 5, that it would make it less of a Persona game? Referring to 3 and 4 specifically, and feel more like Devil Survivor, or would it be a unique change? I think we kind of got into that. Like it would kind of take away from the Persona.
Yeah.
It depends entirely on what it was and how they implemented it. So.
Oh, I guess too the fusion system from SMT4. I really hope they have that in Persona 5 because it's so like custom built to help you make awesome fusions. Mm-hmm. I love it.
I hear a lot of people compliment that part of the game.
It's really good.
That's probably the best thing they've done.
Oh, absolutely.
The biggest improvement they've done to any of SMT's systems in a while.
Okay, fair enough.
Too, if Kaneko or Kaneko, I'm still not sure how to pronounce it. I switch off.
Kaneko.
Is it?
Kaneko.
Okay.
Yeah.
I switch off because I'm not sure. Ever return to design characters for the Persona series? Would you enjoy it? I'd be down.
I'd enjoy it, but I can't say for the rest of the fan base.
Yeah.
If he did characters again, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of his character designs. I think it's just a skin tone that throws me off.
It's Snow White.
Yeah, everyone looks so pale. They look like Twilight characters. No, but like I said, his personas, I think, and his demons as a whole are a lot better than Soejima's as a whole. So yeah.
I have no idea what Soejima's doing with some of those personas.
Oh yeah, like I said, some of them look absolutely ridiculous. Oh man.
Let's see. Question 3. Would you enjoy it if all party members having actual guns returned? I think what she means by this isn't the evokers. I think by actual guns she means like in
Persona 1 they had guns.
Yeah, and like Shin Megami Tensei they had firearms and all that other stuff. Like just having 2 types of physical attack. I would enjoy that.
Bring your Glock to a demon fight.
Yeah. I was talking about drive-bys before. Yeah, that's what I use in all my demon encounters. Just mow them down like a 50 cent.
Exactly. Makes sense, right?
Makes 50 cents.
It makes more sense than a fucking bow and arrow or a sword.
Pretty much.
It kind of does, and that's something I actually enjoy about SMT1, which, like, for the majority of SMT1, there's no reason to use swords unless you get, like, this legendary, magical, beautiful thing. Like, you can just mow down most of the random encounters with automatic rifles, which I really enjoyed, so...
Okay.
And also, just, like, you have 2 physical attacks, so that places more of a strategic element in there, too, where you have to think about if you want to build that up or build your personas up and all that. P3 and P4 were based on different religions / mythos. What would you like to see in this department for P5? Ooh, that's good. That's a good one.
One of my friends suggested like Egyptian like mythos and mythology and Persona
I've heard
5.
that also. Yeah, I've also heard that.
I would love like Norwegian, like Norse mythology.
Yeah, that'd be cool too. Totally.
You want to know where most modern fantasy comes from? Lord of the Rings, and almost everything in Lord of the Rings comes from Norse mythology. So why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's tough. Like, I'd love to see them pull something like incredibly like some like very, very specific Native American myth or something. Like,
I was thinking that too.
Like, actually, Soul Hackers kind of did that too. Soul Hackers was very, very in detail with the Native American mythology, and I think Native American myths as a whole are kind of undertapped in like media.
Yeah,
but,
totally.
Like, I would love if they like did like some very obscure tribe like that lived on like the northern coast of Australia or something ridiculous like that, and like just like brought something very like small to life in a game, but that's kind of unreasonable, I think.
It's crazy far outside of what we're talking about, but the main character in the new Infamous is also Native American. Him and his brother both. I'm also kind of hoping they do something with that there, because I feel like that's such a detail to throw in there. It's like they must be doing something with that if they're going to like bother to mention it and make it the thing, right?
So, I mean, with Native American mythology, it's one of those things that it's so misunderstood by a lot of people in North America that a lot of times it comes off as like horribly racist. Like
definitely.
What was that game? Oh fuck.
Assassin's Creed 3.
No, not Assassin. I never played that game, so I don't know. But probably. What was that game? The shooter a few years ago. Oh fuck, what's it called? It was like an id game. Oh,
Rage?
Not Rage. There were portals. There was a sequel.
Oh, Prey.
That was, oh my god.
Question 5. Would you enjoy seeing characters from other games in the series be super bosses like Raido was in Soul Hackers and the Demi-Fiend was? Fuck that guy, though. In Digital Devil Saga, in Persona. For those of you who don't know, the Demi-Fiend is possibly the hardest bonus boss of any video game of all time.
Yeah,
to the point where
ridiculous.
I tried looking up, like, I was bored one day, so I tried looking up, like, various Demi-Fiend, like, successful videos. The shortest one I found was 47 minutes.
Wow.
Like, that was the shortest, like, time it took to beat that boss. It's ridiculous.
Is Demi-Fiend, because I haven't played Nocturne, is Demi-Fiend, like, is he a god of some sort?
The Demi-Fiend is the main character. Basically, he got turned into a...
he's the protagonist.
He gets turned into a demon, like, 5 minutes in, and judging... Based off of what you do, yes, you can kind of become a very powerful supernatural entity if you so choose.
Right. Yeah, I know he was the protagonist, but I always felt like that name and the way he looks. I was like, is the main character like a god or something? Because he kind of looks the part.
He has the potential to be, yes.
Yes.
Wow.
So is that all the questions you got?
Well, I guess would we like to see other like main characters or something in Persona be like bosses?
We're probably gonna see like Makoto. He's gonna gain the power to move through the Amala network because yeah, and then he's just gonna be a super boss. It's gonna take like 2 hours to beat him.
Remember that?
What if that's totally what happened to him at the end of Persona 3? Like, what if he totally is like, and has that power now?
Well, a lot of people always bring up like this is a rumor, but and maybe it's been shot down. But I've heard a lot. Remember like that whole rumor that Yukiko was the original antagonist of Persona 4? No, she was Izanami. She wasn't even the killer.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I've heard everything. Like I've heard Teddy was supposed to be the killer. I've heard ridiculous things about.
I've never heard it. I've never heard that she was supposed to be Izanami. That is nuts to me. Holy!
I mean, it would have actually fit with the whole game a little more, I think. But
it would have made like a huge nod to like the original Megami Tensei games.
A lot
actually,
of
it would have.
It would have.
Well, a lot of people think that I mean, I don't know if there's any basis to that rumor at all.
I don't think there is. I've never been able to track that down.
I think we did come to a point in the thread earlier in the summer where we did figure out that was something that somebody had made up, and it just kind of spread rapidly.
I mean, it makes sense, right? I think that would have been. It's better than a gas station attendant. Like
if they had done that, I think it kind of would have been cool because I mean, if you notice, it's like kind of like how Yukari is in P3. Yukiko is kind of the sort of the default love interest that the game sort of. So, I mean, I'm not gonna say pushes on you, but the way Yukiko is introduced in things, she's definitely the default love interest.
Yeah.
I mean,
because if you look at like the animated cutscenes in the game, Narukami and Yukiko are usually like side by side while Chie and Yosuke are together, etc. and so forth. I'm not even trying to ship. I'm just being logical here.
Yeah, I mean,
well, Yukiko's also the best, but that's a second thing.
A lot of people don't like her, and they say she's too bland because they removed that aspect of her character. That's their theory. I don't agree with it at all, but that's what a lot of people say.
That's a weird.
This
way
is the
to
first time. This is the
someone.
first time I'm hearing this. Wow.
Yeah, but I think, it's an interesting.
But if they did actually go through that would have been a huge nod to Megami Tensei 1 and 2, and that would have been like, good shit, Atlus, good shit.
Would have been cool, right?
Yeah.
But some people, because like Izanami's just like the person that works at gas station, like, like really?
Nothing better to do, I guess. Just
why not? Yeah, let me the most mundane thing a human could do, gas jockey. But so are we good for questions now?
We have two more. One of them actually got. Actually, I want to read this one first because it's from my best friend who I never thought would email me, but
okay.
You guys are gonna have fun with this one. He says, "Hey Brandon, you should ask the S-Link FM crew if they'll ever read erotic fan fiction for S-Link FM for a bonus episode like you do with Cathedral of Shadows."
Holy,
we should
erotic.
do that.
What do you mean? We're not gonna do that, are we?
What do you? Well, we should. It'd be fun.
What? Oh man.
Trust me, it's a blast.
Yeah, it's. I mean, like when we did the Scaredy event in Rely on Horror, one of the most fun thing was reading the Resident Evil creepypastas.
Steve Burnside versus the people.
Yeah, where Steve Burnside was he was like on trial and like
against Liquid Snake.
Yeah, against Liquid Snake for some reason. And Ocelot, it was so great. Reading fan fiction is hilarious if you have the right one.
Yeah.
Oh god.
But I mean, dude, Anorga, we only have so many things we can talk about.
Go for it.
With the good stuff, I'd be down.
With good stuff. Good.
No, it has to be the perfect type of bad where they're trying to be serious with it, but they're failing so hard that you can't help but make fun of them.
Yeah, exactly.
It needs to be quality.
Exactly.
And then we have thank you Shane for ruining this pack. No, I'll talk to you tomorrow probably. But anyways, this is from Case Corpse. It says, do you think Persona 5 is going to ditch the social link system completely and do something else? I highly doubt it.
No.
Yeah, it's too popular.
Doubt it.
Definitely not.
It's too popular. That's their moneymaker.
I don't exactly. I say it all the time. That's totally their moneymaker. If they were to delist that's quite a bit of the fandom you're upsetting.
Yeah. I think they should make it a lot better, but I don't. Even if they changed it radically, but remove it entirely? No, I don't think
If
that's.
they remove it entirely, they better have a damn good replacement, or the fan base is going to be pissed.
Yeah, exactly.
One question is a repeat: who is your waifu, which we answered. And then, what kind of improvements would you like to see carried from SMT4 and Persona 4 over to Persona 5? And it says, I'd personally love to see choosing inherited skills and making it into Persona 5.
Yes.
And assuming they keep a press turn-like system, I hope the battles remain as fast-paced as they have been since Nocturne, which I agree with. That's something I think MegaTen as a whole does really well, is the battles are quick and deadly.
They're quick, and they are decided in an instant.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It depends entirely. I'm sure they're iterating on a lot of what was in 4 and in SMT 4 and Persona 4, and even stuff they worked on in Catherine. I'm sure they're going to take a lot of that into consideration. I don't know what specifically. Probably because I'm too tired at this point.
That's it for Cathedral of Shadow email questions.
All right. So this was your post credits little snippet at the end. So enjoy that. Sorry we couldn't get to everyone's questions at the same time. Armada had to take off, but it's still in the recording. And oh my god, this is gonna take forever for me to put together.
Have fun. Have fun with this. I know that feel, bro.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, take care.
Bye.
I love all of you.